Out of the gates and ready to go. Hot Bite with Hutton with Row is underway. The Thursday edition is upon us. Chad says the weekend is here on Thursdays. Glad you're here with us on YouTube, streaming live. Search out OutKick, hit the subscription button, and join Chad in the chat throughout the show. Live 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern weekday afternoons. We've got a slam show today. Chad, your thoughts on today's guest list, starting with Trey Wallace, OutKick.com's senior college football reporter. He's in the mix in 20 minutes.
Well, Hutton. It is a celebration today of the weekend. It's Thursday. This guest list, it's reason to celebrate also. I'm excited. It's fun. Look, we don't have to worry about anything anymore, all right? Forget your jobs. Forget your responsibilities. Football is on the air tonight. I have no idea who's playing in college because the thing of college football having
Middle
a good
Tennessee
Thursday
and
night
Western
game.
Kentucky.
Okay, that's got some local ties to us, but means nothing nationally.
Take the over.
The old college football Thursday night game of the week doesn't have much meaning anymore, but we have NFL football tonight, which is going to be great. The weekend has arrived. We celebrate the weekend arriving with a great guest list today and a great show.
Trey Wallace arrives in 20 minutes. Dakich with us later this hour as well. Armando Salguero talks all things NFL, a big Week 4 slate of games. Emphasis on some winless teams and some 2-1 teams that can make a big jump in the divisions that they're currently playing in based on matchups. And Ryan Leaf talks ball with us in hour number 3. Chad, let's get to it. The Scorched Earth top headlines of this afternoon, starting with your Bravos and, let's face it, the man who should be the National League MVP. Ronald Acuna becomes the first player in Major League Baseball history with 40 homers and 70 stolen bases, the 40-70 club. He owns it, and he's started it based on what has been a tremendous season that you don't believe will end with the NL MVP award.
Oh, something's wrong with the process if he's not the MVP. I'm still going to be very upset about it. I can just feel this thing coming to. They're going to look at a lot of advanced analytics and metrics on Mookie Betts and make an argument for him being the MVP. It's this guy that we're looking at right now, Ronald Acuna Jr. He's in a club. We jokingly call it a club. It's a one-man club in the 40-70 club after last night. And what a dramatic game for this to happen in.
One of the stolen bases and when it took place.
The Braves, for a second straight night, the Cubs are hanging on for dear life. They've been in a bit of a free fall. They're tied with the Marlins now, but the Marlins are better because they have the head-to-head. So they own the head-to-head with the Cubs. But in back-to-back nights, Hutton, the Cubs blow a 6-0 lead and lose 7-6 in these games they must have. Last night, they blow another lead. Bottom of the ninth, Marcell Ozuna hits a home run. Oh, by the way, Braves now 5 away from breaking the all-time Major League Baseball home run record. They've got 4 games left to try to do that.
They'll do it.
Ozuna ties it in the ninth. Then Acuna gets on. He drives in the tying run, steals second base. They stop the game to celebrate.
And that's the 70th.
That's the 70th. Stop the game to celebrate. The scoreboards are going off with 40-70 club. Takes the base out. They got to replace the base. Cubs broadcast team is all pissed off because they're delaying the game for this, which you have to understand the history involved in something like this and know that if it's your guy, they're going to stop the game and do this. I can also understand that in extra innings in a tie game.
In what it means for the Cubs.
Right. This is not the A's playing out the season, just looking to go to a new city where nothing matters. These games really matter to the Cubs. So they'd want to keep the thing going and not have a big delay, and the pitcher goes back out. And then, Ozzie Albies goes ahead and ends it with a single, and Acuna slides in head first for the Braves win. Incredible night, incredible season. If you don't like this guy, you don't like people having fun being the best at their sport, because that's really what he does. I don't see his celebrations or anything he's doing as something that's meant to show up the opponent. This dude loves the game. Watch him celebrate the Marcell Ozuna home run last night to tie the game in the ninth. He looks like he's 7 years old, celebrating his first ever home run, celebrating his teammate in that moment. I love Ronald Acuna Jr. There's nothing not to love about this season he's had. Hutton, let's hope that it ends with an NL MVP.
Yeah, and he's created the 40-70 club, as you mentioned. Are there that many voters that don't like this guy so much for his exuberant celebrations that they're going to vote for Mookie Betts instead? Or is it just the preference of Betts and the fact that they voted him MVP before in the AL with the Red Sox? Like, is it just preference numbers, or do they really hate this guy to the point where they don't like the antics? Because I think
if you flip-flop the two,
I don't see
I think it's a
dislike
team
to that degree.
Thing. I think it's more of a team issue. I think if Acuna Jr. was on the Dodgers and Mookie Betts is on the Braves, he would hands down be the MVP.
Well,
I think it's a Dodgers bias. I think there's a bias around some of the top franchises in baseball, and the Braves, from a consistency standpoint, are there, but I don't think they're viewed that way as a banner organization.
Yeah, I just with the run that they've been on and the historical significance of this, plus the offense that this team puts up and the way they're built.
It's
incredible. if you're a baseball a lifer, if you're a diehard who hates all the changes, you believe in the steroid era, they should be banned from the Hall of Fame. Pete Rose is out and should remain out. How can you not appreciate what the Atlanta Braves have done to the point where you're not going to vote the best player in the National League as MVP? Based on the historical significance of, and again, it's not the going out and buying the massive contracts like Cohen, which, by the way, I would love Steve Cohen as my owner, as my favorite team. I love the fact that he'll go out and pay top dollar to attempt to make his franchise legit and a title contender. But the Braves are the opposite. They've got bargain contracts with superstar players in Major League Baseball. How is that not celebrated amongst the holier-than-thou baseball writers and voters?
I don't get it. Look, I hope
I think by and large they are. But the assumption that Acuna won't win based on the fact that he celebrates and he's over the top with it is ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree, and I hope I'm wrong, but I do think there's going to be some of that resentment from some voters at least, and I think some voters, that's enough to sway it in favor of Mookie Betts. The top 4 hitters in all of baseball are on 2 teams. It is Acuna Jr. In order, I'll go ahead and say it. It's Acuna Jr., it is Mookie Betts, it is Matt Olson of the Braves, and it's Freddie Freeman of the Dodgers. I mean, any metric you want to look at, those are the top 4 offensive weapons in baseball. It will be a crime if these 2 teams don't play in the NLCS. That is what I want to see. I think that's what America would want to see if you're baseball fans. We'll see if it happens. Look, the Braves won what felt like a miracle World Series in 2021 with that group, and that was the beginning of the window. That was early Braves of this window with this core that signed on for a long time for this team. So they're the favorite now. I think it's safe to say they are the favorite to win the World Series. You love what the Orioles have done, the Rays also in the American League. The Astros are going to be a factor, certainly the Dodgers. But the Braves are the best team in baseball. They're certainly the best offense in baseball. So now it's about going out and getting it done. And they are making life hell on the Chicago Cubs.
And they're going to have to be the best offense.
I was talking with Matty Ice, resident Cubs fan in here before. I said, might as well go ahead and win out.
He's worried?
He's very worried. He's very nervous about it. He's nervous for his boy. We don't call him David Ross. We call him Dave Ross. That's how tight we are with the Cubs. He's Dave Ross. He's Matty Ice. Davey Ross, sometimes we'll call him that, like Davey Hudson. He should be nervous. The Cubs need to go ahead and win the last 4 if they want to feel secure at all.
The Taylor Swift effect in full effect across the NFL, and all of the attention going to Kelsey and Swift, because Taylor Swift is going to be in attendance for Sunday Night Football in New York. Jets hosting the Kansas City Chiefs, and the ticket prices soared, which I'm fascinated by because of the reveal that she's going to be there to watch Travis Kelce and the Chiefs take on the New York Jets. SeatGeek has the ticket price at $508, and what was $169 on Ticketmaster for a pair of tickets per seat together, $169 to get in for Sunday Night Football, went up 70% roughly to $290, rounding out the change there from $169 to $290 upon the announcement that T Swift is going to be in the house. I'm fascinated by the fact that you would want to go to a game, because she's in the building, you're not going to be able to. It's not like she's playing a concert that we know of. It's not like you're going to have a glimpse at her other than on the screen.
Well, look at all the people that tuned in just to watch a live football game they otherwise wouldn't watch because they're going to show Taylor Swift in a suite.
Yeah, but
celebrating something.
But that's tuning in versus spending top dollar to go.
Well, I don't know. I want to see people start spending the top dollar. It's one thing for those that hold the tickets to up the price when this news comes out.
Well, this is through Ticketmaster,
of what they're doing.
From $169 to $290.
I know. Has everyone bought those tickets up, though, for that price is my point. I understand them raising the price. My point is, will people actually spend top dollar because they're going to go to a game that Taylor Swift is in the stadium and they'll never see her?
They can raise it on Ticketmaster, though, because on the secondary market, it's triple the price.
Look, I think this whole thing has just gotten funny now. I'm sitting here looking at our screen. It says, report, Taylor Swift to attend Chiefs Jets. Yeah. That in and of itself is hilarious that this is like a viable report. And it is a viable report, and we're going to talk about it. But I'm really going on this roller coaster of this is a marketing ploy to this is true love. And now I'm back on the true love bandwagon because I said yesterday, Hutton,
2 months ago.
But hold on, hear me out. I said yesterday, I will fall on the sword and say I'm wrong. I said there's no way she's going to go to this Jets game. She's going to be there for that one in Kansas City. She's going to go back to her life, doing whatever she's going to do, and then maybe we'll see her pop up 2 months from now at another game or a month from now. This is back-to-back weeks, Hutton. That, my friend, is true love. That is true love. That is going to bat for the one you care most about. And maybe that is Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. You know, Clay brought this up yesterday. I've heard a lot about this. Why is she into Travis Kelce? Like, what is it, about Travis Kelce? Clay says he's not that good looking. And Taylor Swift has dated a collection of 145-pound British theater nerds the last few years, right? That's basically who she's been with.
Based on the list we went through.
But now she is with a 6'4" NFL tight end that's built like an oak tree. Like, that's the appeal. I don't think, I'm out of line to say it's the step up and difference in who she's been dating. She dated who was the lead, the 1975? She dated the lead singer. Look at that guy. And then let's police lineup. Let's put Joe Alwyn, the dude from 1975, and Travis Kelce next to each other in a lineup, and let's poll the women of OutKick Hot Mic and ask them which one they're choosing.
Chad, you were crushing the hopes and dreams of every, skinny
British theater nerd that's watching the show right now.
Yeah, or just anyone like. So Chad's saying I don't have a chance with Taylor Swift.
My apologies to
her dating history.
My apologies to the 2 Hot Mic viewers in the south of London right now that are trying to make it in theater that I just offended by saying that 6'4", built like an oak tree, Travis Kelce is maybe more appealing to Taylor Swift.
But I think what Clay's saying is, why Kelce if you're going for the 6'4" oak tree? The league is full of them.
Yeah, I would argue this, and Clay and I could talk about this offline. I'm not mad about anything he's saying or any of that, but why not Kelce? For this reason, the dude is funny.
Well, yesterday though you were saying like, why?
Oh, look,
go to that level when she could have the Pope.
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying anyone she dates. This was the point. Anyone she dates, it's a step down. Okay, anyone. There's no one her. If she dated Tom Cruise, we're going to get into discussion I want to get into about the most famous person in America. My vote would be Tom Cruise. Okay. As the most famous person in America because more 80-year-olds know Tom Cruise than they know Taylor Swift. And you got to go to the old age bracket to know also, right? Let's not get into it right now. That's just a quick aside. My point is, anyone she dates is a step down in popularity. Unless it's Tom Cruise or, Michael Jordan, possibly, or Donald Trump.
Yeah, or
so
the wealthiest people.
What I'm saying is, why not Kelce? If everyone is a step down, he's funny. He hosted SNL. He's got a lot of things going for him right now. I mean, I get it. If you're going to date a football player, I get it with Travis Kelce is all that I'm saying. I love playing matchmaker here on this show, too. Report, Taylor Swift to attend Chiefs Jets, by the way.
It's dominated, man.
60 minutes. 60 minutes profile of Taylor Swift in a suite.
And
if you are spending top dollar to go to a game that a celebrity's at in a suite, that's ridiculous.
Well, the top dollar
if that's
for
the
going
reason
to an
you're
NFL game would be going to see Patrick Mahomes in prime
course,
time.
of
And
course.
Kelsey.
Or just being a Jets or Chiefs fan in the metropolitan New York area that wants to go watch the game.
Jets fans pay top dollar for week one, and they're not the ones skyrocketing the prices
but if
for
you
Zach
are
Wilson.
someone that is saying to yourself, you see this, what we put up there, report Taylor Swift to attend Chiefs Jets. I better get on Ticketmaster right now.
That was my point.
And spend top dollar.
The idea that they're skyrocketing because of this report is fascinating.
That's what's crazy, is if you did it solely because Taylor Swift is going to be there.
Yes.
Also, anyone who does that may need to be investigated. If that's the reason you're going to spend over $1,000 to go to a game, Taylor Swift's going to be there. I've never been to an NFL game, but I'm going to this one.
Well, maybe it's the 3 or 4 protesters or the lobbyists outside the stadium.
Maybe I've seen Bodyguard one too many times too. That may be why I'm saying that.
That's fine.
She does have 10 security guards with her at all times.
I think that's low. I think you're
probably should go higher.
10 visible.
Yeah,
you're not counting the snipers on the roof.
She's basically got the equivalent of the Army of Luxembourg with her at all times.
Instead of Green Beret, Red Beret.
Sovereign Marines of Monaco.
Coming up, Trey Wallace joins us. We dive into the top college football headlines. Some big matchups this weekend coming up. We'll preview those and discuss the big discussions from the week. Trey's next on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome on into OutKick the Morning. I am your host, Charlie Arnold. Now, when it comes to race baiting in sports, no one does it better than ESPN. It's one of the reasons I was frustrated while working there. And now the Disney-owned company is out to prove just how overwhelming racism really is in the world of sports. Later this month, ESPN Plus will debut a new series on their streaming platform called Skin in the Game with Dr. Ibram X. Kendi. Now, if you aren't familiar with Kendi, he is a so-called anti-racist. He's a writer who makes a living trying to prove just how racist everybody else is. One of his books defines racism as referring to policies and ideas that create or permit any differences in outcomes in racial groups, to which I think it's clear racism goes both ways these days. But that's not a double narrative you will find in this series. Instead, the first episode will focus on Black athletes who use public platforms to protest injustices and what it costs to speak up. And in the second, why Black female athletes are considered polarizing when they prioritize their mental health, just as a few examples. Now, I appreciate highlighting athletes who have done incredible things in the world of sports, whether they are Black, white, Asian, Latin, or otherwise. But using Ibram X. Kendi to lead this series just feels like a setup. Is he going to mention that in these episodes, there was an occurrence in 2016 where Colin Kaepernick wore socks to a 49ers practice that showed cartoon policemen done up as pigs? Now, this even being prior to Kaepernick's sit-down of the national anthem during San Francisco's August preseason game. Or will they mention how in 2022, former ESPN anchor and sports analyst Jemele Hill famously called Trump a white supremacist and his voters all racist? Until the documentary airs, we can only ask one question. Will it be fair and balanced? Seems highly unlikely. Now, considering the host, handpicked by ESPN, he has incited his own racist remarks against people that don't look like him in the past, so I don't see how any way, in any shape, any form, this is an unbiased series. Now, speaking of the past, once upon a time, guys, I also worked for the Fox station in Indianapolis, and I covered the Colts. One of the guys I covered in that locker room, former NFL safety Sergio Brown, who went on to play for 6 years in the league. When I met him, he was talented, he was smart, and an all-around very, very pleasant guy. So I was startled to come across headlines 2 days ago that his mother had been murdered and that he was nowhere to be found. Then yesterday, the story got even weirder. From an Instagram burner account, which seems to belong to Brown, a video was posted of Brown making some very, very bizarre claims. Check it out.
I got it. Doris. It's P. Sherman.
There's something going on with the
Wallaby
stream. It's going.
Oh my gosh. I can't. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. What the missing? They ain't never seen Finding Nemo. What the is going on? This is traumatic. Lucky I know how to say a joke. You.
You can hear him say he thought his mom was on vacation and the FBI and Maywood Police Department in Illinois had kidnapped him. This is a part of the video that you didn't see, but he goes on to make very, very weird claims. He also talks about fake news. I mean, it's clear Sergio Brown has lost it. In making it even worse for Sergio, one of his mom's neighbors told a local news station that police told him that they saw Brown through the door's Ring camera and light a bonfire to burn his mother's clothes.
Sixth and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow rolls on across the OutKick network. You're streaming live on YouTube. We say hello. Thank you. Hit the subscribe button. Pound the like button for us as well. Give us a thumbs up. And join Chad in the chat currently.
Best place to find us, easiest place to find us and watch continuously is on YouTube. So go there, find us on the OutKick channel, and we're there live 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time daily.
You can find Trey Wallace, the senior college football reporter for OutKick at OutKick.com, and you can also find him right now. He joins us from Boulder. Trey, good to see you, man.
Guys, good to see you as well. It's a nice, like 63 degrees out here. It might as well just move along with everybody else in the country.
It's Hollywood. It's the Hollywood of the Rockies is where you are now. Congrats.
I just watched an Amazon crew unload a full truck of cameras. I'm watching people just walk around, and these are tourists. You can tell they're tourists. I just left one place, their team store. And they tell me this has turned into a tourist attraction. Boulder has. And I'm not going to argue with that after what I've witnessed over the last couple of hours being on campus.
Hollywood and Boulder, and Hollywood visits with USC and the Trojans in town, 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern kickoff on Fox. What do you anticipate Saturday, Trey, given the fact that we saw what happened in Eugene for the Buffaloes, and that USC, while they were playing in week 0, and we certainly tuned in and saw them a bit, they've been on the back burner somewhat, even with the Heisman Trophy winner from last year, and now they're on center stage with a massive audience Saturday.
Yeah, Jonathan, it's weird. Like, I don't know a lot who all stayed up and watched the Arizona State game last weekend, but there have been parts of USC that have been a little bit alarming to me, especially with that defense with Alex Grinch. And so looking at Saturday, like, this is the perfect opportunity if Deion Sanders and them are going to try to open this thing up on offense with, Shador, and if people can step up in the place of Travis Hunter, I do think like this game could actually turn in to something much better than maybe what the odds makers are thinking. Because right now, I don't trust the USC defense at the moment. I watched Arizona State go up and down the field on the Trojans last weekend. Now, look, I'm not saying Colorado is going to come out here and beat USC. I just think this sets up better for what Colorado and Deion Sanders is trying to do, because this is not like an Oregon team that, hitting you every, 10 seconds with the pass. This is a Caleb Williams team in Lincoln Riley that they can try to calm it down a little bit on offense, which maybe could set things up nicely for the Colorado defense to take a breath. But either way, I'm looking for it to be wild pandemonium. I think that this game turns into something a lot bigger. And a lot of people forget, too, this is a 10 o'clock in the morning game locally.
Yeah.
So it would be very interesting to see the dynamic, Jonathan.
I've been interested this week and intrigued by the approach from Lincoln Riley. He's keeping things quiet on purpose. Pre-game or post-game, for the last 3 matchups for Colorado, there's been a lot of chatter. Matt Rule with Shador, of course, with Jay Norvell. Last week, We saw the details with Oregon and Dan Lanning's comments pregame and all that. But here's Lincoln Riley just trying to quiet and tamp down the noise for the Trojans instead of playing into the fight promotion, I refer to it as, week in and week out for primetime.
It's like Don King is handling things for these games. No, and I don't disagree with you. Lincoln Riley's approach to this thing is, let's just go take care of business.
Yeah.
Like, and a part of Lincoln Riley needs to maybe quiet down a little bit. He's got his own problems out there going on for how he, proclaimed things went down in Oklahoma, 2 weeks ago with that interview that it came out. But I think overall this is Lincoln Riley trying to get to work, trying to take this game. He knows how big this game is. Like he knows what the networks are going to be here, and he knows that this thing is going to be a big new kickoff on Fox, and that this could honestly be a trap game if his Trojans don't come out and play well. So why add any fuel to the fire? I think is probably the best way to put it. And Lincoln Riley's decided not to do that, and I can't say I'll blame him because either way, Colorado's going to go after him, especially the players.
Trey, I wouldn't classify this as a huge week in the SEC with the games, but it is a very interesting week for a number of teams. And I want to talk about two games, each featuring 3-1 versus 2-2. Let's start with Tennessee and South Carolina. Revenge opportunity for Tennessee, regardless of what they want to say. They all know what happened last year and how Spencer Rattler just ate them up and derailed their national championship hopes in that game. It seems like Spencer Rattler's sort of it for South Carolina right now, especially with Juice Wells out, no running game to speak of. Their pass defense is one of the worst in the country. A big opportunity for Joe Milton to prove he can do more through the air down the field in this game. What do you think about this matchup?
I do. I mean, this is, you call it revenge, call it whatever you would like to call it. Tennessee going with the dark uniform Saturday night in Neyland Stadium. There's not a day that's gone by inside that Tennessee football facility and in some form or fashion, South Carolina has not been brought up, dating back to last season. I've talked to too many people for them not to deny that. I think that when you look at it, in Tennessee's case, you don't want to get too overjuiced when it comes to revenge, where Spencer Rattler could come in and all of a sudden the offense gets let loose and you find yourself in a dogfight. Like if we look at both teams right now, I think both are interesting on defense. I think they have what it takes on offense, but like you said, without Juice Wells, if Tennessee gets pressure on Spencer Rattler, that can make his life miserable, just as Georgia was doing, just as North Carolina was doing. But the biggest thing that stands out to me is that I think Shane Beamer wants this one really bad as well. Again, just like last season. But you look at Tennessee and Josh Heupel and Joe Milton. This is Joe Milton's chance to put Florida behind him on the national stage. This is the opportunity where folks will forget, the play calling that went down in Gainesville. Also forget some of the passes that weren't complete. Overall, this is a way for him to reignite his name. And I think, against South Carolina, I think that opportunity is there. To me, it just comes down to wide receivers, and it comes down to what your offensive line is. I'm tired of hearing about Cooper Mays, if he's going to play football or not. And until they roll him out there and get going, I think everybody needs to tamper that down a little bit. But it's a big weekend for Tennessee and Joe Milton. And if they want to keep this up, Chad, they want to contend towards 9-3, whatever, 10-2, their expectations. You better beat South Carolina on Saturday.
Yeah, if they're going to reach expectation at all, it's a must win. They're going below expectation if they lose this game at home, no doubt. Texas A&M had high expectations coming into last year, and then high expectations coming into this year. Now they lose their starting quarterback. But, Trey, they got a guy in Max Johnson who started a bunch of games in the SEC. They go on the road to Arkansas where they're less than a touchdown favorite. Arkansas limping into this one a little bit too, even though they played LSU really well last week. What do you think about the matchup?
I thought KJ, man, if KJ Jefferson had Rocket Sanders with him last week against LSU, I think they get out of Baton Rouge with a win. Not having Rocket Sanders, it really hurts Arkansas. We've seen what the Razorbacks can do. I watched that loss to BYU, but then I watched them come back and play against LSU. And it's like, okay, that was two different ball clubs. A&M, man, Chad, this is interesting territory because it kind of reminds me of what happened when Haynes King was named the starting quarterback. You remember Haynes King got hurt, that year and didn't play anymore. So they went to the backup quarterback, and Calzada was one of the guys that was playing for A&M. Now Texas A&M's got a quarterback situation with Max Johnson, who, in my opinion, I like Max Johnson. I think Max Johnson can complete all the passes. But there was a reason why Max Johnson was not the starting quarterback to open the year up, coming from Jimbo Fisher. So how that plays out Saturday, you got to win this game. You have to beat Arkansas, man. If Arkansas beats you in Jerry's world and with a team that is not playing particularly well on defense, I think this just sets up the dam to open up on Jimbo Fisher. So that's why I'd be nervous if I'm a Texas A&M fan. I think Max Johnson could do it. I do. But you're going to go up against an Arkansas team that, coming off that close loss last week to LSU, they would love nothing more to take down the Aggies. So it's going to be fun to watch. I'm just very curious to see how this Bobby Petrino offense kind of steps up now with a backup.
Trey Wallace, our guest on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network, OutKick's college football reporter. How do you think Notre Dame responds after last week's loss, now on the road against Duke, and a Blue Devils defense that hasn't allowed more than 14 points to any opponent this season so far?
Yeah, I love what Elko's doing in Durham. I do. This is one of those games where I think Sam Hartman continues to go in the right direction, taking those right strides. Last week, it was such a good game. I know the offense was not there, but you look at the way Hartman played, I thought he was composed at home, first big game as a Fighting Irish quarterback. Now, you got to this is very hard to do. You got to back up that emotion of everything you put into that Ohio State game. Now you got to go down to Durham and play Duke, a team that is very good, that can beat you. So now you have to put it all together again. Like that, to me, is going to be the interesting part for Notre Dame. It's not what they do on offense, not what they do on defense. Can they bring the same energy to Durham as they had last weekend in South Bend? And if they don't, Mike Elko and those Blue Devils will get out in front of Notre Dame and make them pay. Riley Leonard, special quarterback. That's why I'm a little bit nervous for Notre Dame this weekend. They've got the players on both sides of the ball, but it's all about that get-up game. You're coming off last week. Now you got to do it this week. Let's see if Notre Dame shows up.
Bigger and better programs will come calling for Mike Elko if he continues this at Duke. I'm interested to see where he ends up going or if he stays at Duke. Also interested to see what happens at Michigan State. Trey, what is this job exactly right now for Michigan State? I know Chris Kleiman of Kansas State was asked about it and said, I'm not going there. I'm staying right here. I'm not going anywhere. He was definitive about it. What level of candidate can Michigan State hire this go-around?
Chad, I don't know if they can go out and get a big-name coach. And I'm talking, and the definition of big-name coach, it changes every single year, however that team is doing, and I understand that. But it's a mess in East Lansing right now. How, as a head coach, are you supposed to take the job and go into the program, but maybe not trust the administration and the athletic department? There's a lot. I think we all can agree that there was a lot of stuff that went on during this whole Mel Tucker ordeal that we're having a hard time trying to figure out the truth in of it all. I think that's the biggest thing to me. Like, I think both sides screwed up, in the Mel Tucker ordeal. But I think that Michigan State found their out, and they did it procedurally in the right way. And Mel Tucker did violate rules. Okay, he did. Was it worth getting fired over? I don't know. But I feel like right now this job, you just brought it up. Is Elko, is Mike Elko somebody that would take the Michigan State job? Look at how big the Big Ten, sorry for putting them both at the same time, but They're getting bigger now. Okay, you got USC, UCLA joining the conference. You got Michigan and Ohio State playing well. Penn State's playing well. You've got a number of teams there. What is the Michigan State job right now? The caliber of it. So that's what concerns me when it comes to going out and getting a big name coach, where they might have to meet somewhere in the middle. Somebody that's either A, up and coming, or if they can go get a distinguished coach, maybe at not a lower tier school, but somebody from the ACC, or I'll throw out like Dave Clawson or something like that, who's at Wake Forest. Like, they got to go in and find somebody that can change the program around, because this last year has been a cluster for Michigan State.
Trey Wallace has been our guest. He's in Boulder for coverage through OutKick.com for Colorado and USC on Saturday, the big noon kickoff game of the week. Trey, always appreciate it. Last 10 seconds. If Deion says, "Do you believe?" what do you respond with?
Ask me again next year. That's a. If he beats USC, I'll get in front of him and say, "Hey, buddy,
Trey,
I believe."
do you believe? Do you believe, Trey?
Just say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just say no.
Just say no.
Yeah. Do it for all of us. Just say no.
Enjoy it. We're going to enjoy the coverage as well. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thanks,
Trey
Trey.
Wallace there at Trey Wallace _ on social is where you can find him. And again, OutKick.com for the college football news, updates, reports from Boulder and elsewhere. Trey's got it covered totally. So does Dan Dakich on Don't At Me. Gets after it.
Yes, he does.
Joins us next. We go across the headlines of the week with Dan. Stick with us. Straight ahead on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
There's no doubt in my mind he could have caught the ball in his back pocket if he'd been running. Blowing a lead and losing a game is 100 times more lasting and painful in some clubhouses than losing the game 15-0. If I had to start a list in the last 10 years of horrible underachievers, he's at the top.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your son supporting, that was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Full taste of the Southern Legend.
It is Hot Mike with Hutton with Row on the OutKick Network. Glad you're with us today, the Thursday edition, the weekend edition. Chad's decree. The weekend is here.
It's
Football
arrived.
tonight.
Just embrace it.
Green Bay
Starts early now.
hosting Detroit in the NFL, big divisional matchup there. Last time the Lions were at Lambeau was back in January, and they ended the Rodgers era.
Hutton, if this were May, this would just be another Thursday,
Yeah.
and not the weekend. But now that we're in September, almost
Fair.
October in the fall, Thursdays are the start of the weekend.
Yep.
It has been decreed.
Yep.
From
It's
on
also it's likely a golf day for Dan Dakich,
But the weather's good.
host of
up
Don't
in-
At
up
Me
in Indy
here on
for
the
some
OutKick
golf.
Network. Dan, hope things are well, man.
Yeah, I got to get the Cubs going. I know it's football season, but we're tied. I need playoff baseball. My old self. I look for appointment TV. I don't even know any other teams in the major leagues. So the Cubs have a big one tonight. They're tied with the Marlins. I'm wearing my jersey. And then once I'm done here, I'm going to go play golf because that's what I do.
There you go. How nervous are you for your Cubbies?
What's that?
How nervous are you for your Cubbies?
Well, you know what? I know what's going to happen. We're used to failure. But on the off chance that they can win a couple here and go against what I've been watching since 1969, I'm excited for the Cubs. It's been a long time since we've had meaningful baseball this time of year. So that's how I choose to look at it, fellas. We got meaningful baseball, at least 4 more games tonight and then 3 over the weekend. So screw it. I'm all in. I ain't nervous. I'm excited. Yeah.
Hey, we've got meaningful football as well, and I'm just glad that we can have a little football sprinkled into a broadcast where Taylor Swift is in attendance, up in the booth watching Travis Kelce with his mother Donna Kelce, and now she's going to be at MetLife for Sunday Night Football as the Jets host the Chiefs. What do you make of the attention and the fervor that this has received?
You know, as a guy who raised a daughter, who the daughter really liked Taylor Swift, loved Justin Bieber, liked Taylor Swift, a stepdaughter who was cool with Taylor Swift. I always knew about Taylor Swift. I always thought Taylor Swift was a star. But fellas, I got to tell you, when did this happen? When did she become like Michael freaking Jackson? When did she become this insane international phenomenon when she shows up at a game, 300,000 people join her boyfriend's Instagram, jersey sales through the roof. Look, I get it, I guess. She can sing, all right, and she seems to be a normal human being who cries about relationships. Everybody does that, so I guess she relates. Me personally, I'm tired of the Kelces. I was tired of them before Taylor Swift. I'm tired of the Mannings. I've had enough of these guys, but that's just me. Hey, good, I guess. I don't know. I don't get the whole thing. From Taylor Swift's insane, nuts popularity to the fact that she, ticket prices are like $5,000. I think I told you I went to an auction, a dinner, kind of an auction thing, a charity thing. Guy got 2 Taylor Swift tickets for $6,000, and he thought he made out pretty good. I'm like, all right, man, there you go. It's a world I don't live in, I guess.
Dan, you're a former player and coach for a program that you'll be critical of when you feel like it's called for. That's what Joe Namath did with the Jets. He went off and he said Zach Wilson isn't the guy. He said, and if Robert Saleh and the administration there can't realize that, then they need to go too. Now you've got Aaron Rodgers coming back and saying he shouldn't be doing that. Robert Saleh saying my door is open. I think it's a little weird they haven't met before, quite frankly, being a Jets legend like Joe Namath. What do you think about what Namath had to say and the reaction to his statement?
Well, Joe Namath is a legend, and those guys are part-timers, including Aaron Rodgers and Robert Saleh. So Joe Namath can say whatever he wants. And I'm going to give you a little insight to it. Joe Namath was there when the Jets were good. At least, you know, they won the Super Bowl and really kind of merged the NFL and the AFL. And Joe Namath was a big part of that. He remembers how good New York was. Same thing with me with Indiana basketball. Like, you know what? I remember when we went 13-5 my junior year, went to the Elite Eight, and that was considered a disappointing season. Indiana's only been to 2 or 3 Elite Eights since 1984, if you can believe that. So, you know, I remember, and you get tired of it. You know, I got tired. Bob Knight was fired in 2000. It's now 2023, and people are still talking about Bob Knight or talking about, will Indiana get back? You just get tired of it. And Joe Namath, I understood what he was doing. You get to a point where you're like, hey, look, am I the only one that cares about winning around here? I don't want to hear how great recruits are. I don't want to hear how great draft picks are if you're Joe Namath. I want to hear how great this guy is. Look, win. That's it. In the NFL and more than any other sport. College basketball, you know, you could have a mediocre year, get on a run, and you've had a great year. In the NFL, you got to win, and I got no problem with Joe Namath doing it. You know, Aaron Rodgers wants to say something. That's time maybe he stays out of that one. That's too big for him. He's a part-timer. Robert Saleh, to me, I said it when I watched him on Hard Knocks. Every time I watch Hard Knocks, when I used to have my radio show in Indy, I'd tell you whether I could play for the coach or not. And I said on Saleh, when you read and you're a coach and you read off of a teleprompter to your team, you suck. Like, I'm just going to tell you, I've been around a lot of great coaches. I've been in basically every great coach currently in college basketball's locker rooms when they've been giving talks. Not one of them used a teleprompter. Saleh did. You think Bob Knight or Krzyzewski or Urban Meyer or Saban are using a teleprompter? I saw that. It tells me two things. One, he's uncomfortable, and two, he's not very smart, and three, he doesn't speak from the heart. Yeah. So screw him. Good for Joe Namath, man. Hey, I don't blame him. I don't blame him 1 second. Not 1 second.
Wonder what happens with Robert Saleh if the teleprompter gets stuck. You know?
Could be a problem.
Honest to God. It's like Ron Burgundy, right? Wouldn't that be great if I was a grad assistant? I was kind of a smart aleck with Coach Knight. I'd slip some words in there and see if they got through. It'd be a Ron Burgundy moment if I was on that staff.
Go bleep yourself, San Diego. That's what he's going to end his address with for the
You're
pregame.
right.
Let's go get a bleeping snack.
Yeah.
Hey, Dan Dakich with us, host of Don't At Me. From one 80-year-old and Joe Namath to others, what about the 80-year-old plus demo that has all the coaches pissed off? Ryan Day, Jake Dickert. You mentioned, not a coach, but quarterback with Aaron Rodgers, the comments by Namath. But Lou Holtz and Lee Corso stirring the pot as well. And for all these coaches that say, ignore the noise, focus on the stuff in-house, a lot of coaches are responding to media opinion and 80-year-old men opining on the sport itself that have been doing it for a long, long time.
Yeah, Louis Holtz was on my show, and he was awesome. He didn't back down. He said, hey, look, this is what I think. And if Notre Dame had fallen on the ball instead of thrown, saving a timeout, they'd have won it. I don't, who knows, but I don't think he's wrong. Look, we don't listen to the noise is complete crap. Everybody listened to the noise. I'm going back before we had all this noise. And my man, Bobby Knight, listened to all the noise. Deion Sanders saying he keeps receipts. That ain't new. Mike Krzyzewski, that dude kept receipts. I remember walking in one time, and he was pissed at everybody because dudes were criticizing Grayson Allen's dumbass. Everybody keeps receipts. I kept receipts at freaking Bowling Green. Are you kidding me? Everybody does. I knew the jackasses in town that were talking bad about me down at Uptown, Downtown, the popular bar. So, yeah, it's crap. I don't blame the Washington State guy. Here's the deal. Washington State, he's got to do everything he can. He can't. He's trying to find a conference. And he's got my man Lee Corso, former IU coach, talking about, well, no one's watching this. He's got a good team, right? He's trying to get in the league. He's got to do that. Ryan Day, I got no problem with Ryan Day did. Here's what you got to understand. This is so true. When you have a big win, you feel bulletproof. You just do. You feel like, and you're not even worried about, well, we may lose the next week. You saw it with Brian Ferentz when they scored 45. But what happens is you feel bulletproof. Fellas, I was 2-0 as the interim head coach at Indiana. We just beat Ohio State on Super Tuesday. And I'm getting ready to be interviewed by Aaron Andrews, and it was all I could do on the court after the game. It was all I can do to just shut my mouth and not tell every little Indiana fan to go kiss my backside because they were whining and moaning about Samson. It was smart because we ended up getting our brains beat out the next night. But the truth of the matter is when you win, I'm telling you, man, you feel bulletproof. And you got a whole list of things to get off your chest, and that's what Day did. I liked it both. I thought it was fun.
It's amazing, too, Chad, how quickly Day calmed down in the moment.
Yeah, it was just a weird thing to go to immediately. I understand the press conference right there on the field was crazy.
Yeah.
And with the Dickert press conference, I'm with you, Dan. I really like that. And I think that there's an uncomfortable sense of uneasiness if you're Washington State. And not only are you watching Lee Corso and ESPN talk about no one watching, but knowing that ESPN had a big hand in cherry picking and matchmaking teams with leagues and what they want and what they'd pay for, what they wouldn't pay for. And I think that's what the Washington State coach is saying is, look, you guys did this, and now you're going to make fun of us having done this? And it's weird because we can credit ESPN and other networks for growing the popularity of college football, but now they're also hurting what college football was in return. So I get it with the Washington State coach.
I do too, and you're exactly right. I mean, ESPN has a big hand in this because, I mean, do people just think that, well, we have a football program and money just comes to us? No, it comes through TV deals. I mean, really, a Big Ten network has changed the game for everybody. Money just doesn't show up. What do they say, money doesn't fall on trees? No, hell no. So it's the TV networks that drive it. You can complain about it all you want, and you certainly shouldn't complain about it as a coach. I think I told you guys this before. When I signed a contract, or I signed an agreement to be the coach at West Virginia, I was going to make $500,000 a year, which to me was all the money in the world. But when I read it, only $150,000 was coming from the school. Everything else was coming from shoe companies and TV production type things. So, look, ESPN absolutely had a hand in it. The coach at Washington State and Oregon State should be hot about it. And frankly, particularly when you win, you should take shots all the time. At least I would. There's no such thing as being the better man when people are just stomping on you. There's no such thing in business, at least that kind of business, when you're the coach and not directly involved in negotiations to turn in the other cheek. You got to fight for your crew. That's what Ryan Day did. That's what the Washington State guy does. And I'm not going to lie to you. I don't see it stopping. If Washington State's really good, I got to believe that that guy is going to keep talking. And I got to believe that Ryan Day is going to bring this up, and bring this up because it's defending his team. It endears you to your team. Ohio against the world. I lived in Ohio for 10 years. I never felt it was Ohio against the world. I felt like Ohio had a lot of advantages. I mean, a lot of cities, a lot of industry, big population. So I don't know where that came from, but it was pretty funny.
Final minute here, Dan. Are the Colts going to end up trading Jonathan Taylor before it's all said and done?
Man. I always go gun to head. I think yes. I heard a couple things that in order, the Colts are going to say play. Second thing, we'll try to trade you. And third thing is we'll sign you or we'll talk about an extension, but you got to play and we got to see what the heck you're doing.
Yeah.
That's from the Colts side of it. You know, I don't know the other side of it. I don't know Taylor's people. It may be so fractured, but let's be honest. You guys know this. We saw this with Deebo Samuels. Deebo Samuels was at parties ripping on the 49ers. Oh, this, that. Well, guess what? Money talks, BS walks, and they got it done. Gun to head, I think in a couple weeks, I think he'll play If he doesn't play, then he's been traded because he's not going to sit out anymore.
Yeah, we're entering the month for the trade deadline coming up in, 5 weeks from now. And reports are very cyclical. It's back around to him now wanting to be traded again. So we'll see what happens. Dan, always great. We'll be watching tomorrow and, of course, each weekday morning here on OutKick for Don't At Me.
Fired up today. Loved it, Dan.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. See you guys.
You're the
Bye-bye.
man. Dan Dakich. Bring the
I should have
energy.
asked him about the autograph he had on his Cubs jersey. It was signed to Dan from someone on his chest. I don't know if you noticed that. I was trying to read what it was, but we'll ask him about it next time.
Yeah, he'll be wearing it next time.
My guess is maybe it was from Ernie Banks, Mr. Cub himself.
Maybe so.
That's my guess.
Maybe Sandberg.
Could be. Mark Grace. Another one of my favorite Cubs.
Maybe. Coming up, well, college football. Can we actually have too much of a good thing? We're seeing a lot of good. Is it great or is it annoying? Chad explains straight ahead on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump, now at least have to see like senile, not all there. Probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. And I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be this stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm going to go Ron DeSantis.
Okay, why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro.
There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Viking show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm going to say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
Because Game of Thrones is all about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Hell yeah, baby. I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well.
Yeah.
And that's all he's got to say.
Is there a dream candidate, someone that you think could save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
Just like that, the second hour is here for Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow, the Thursday edition. Coming up in 20 minutes, Armando Salguero will join us. He's the senior NFL reporter for OutKick.com. Ryan Leaf will join us coming up in about an hour and 20 minutes from right now. And in between, a lot of great discussion, opinion, and takes on what we're seeing across the NFL and college football landscape and much more. Chad, how would you describe our wagering success so far this football season?
Well, how I would describe our wagering success versus my wagering success would be different. My wagering success has been minimal. I have done well in college football.
Yeah, you have.
With some of my picks. Even had a pick I got right over Kelly in Vegas that we'll have on tomorrow that I'll surely bring up with her.
Better.
But I... overall, not great. NFL, really not great.
We get back on
so
track tonight with Thursday Night Football. We'll give some picks and selections
later.
This
is a confidence-building week. This is like when an SEC team plays an FCS opponent.
Yep.
That's the way I'm viewing this week in gambling.
If you haven't taken your shot with PointsBet, now is the perfect moment. A big reason why. Exclusively for first-time PointsBet users, grab this unique offer. Right now, new PointsBet users get up to $1,000 in second chance bets. If your first bet doesn't go as planned, PointsBet has your back with a second chance. This offer is available, OutKick.com/bet. OutKick.com/bet. Complete the registration process with PointsBet and make your first bet. If your first bet happens to lose, that's when the second chance bets come into play. Remember, terms and conditions apply. You've got to be 21 or older in legal gambling states. Gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. Head to OutKick.com/bet right now to snag this offer. You mentioned getting on track and propelling. We need a boost in this area, right? We'll get it tonight. I think tonight with the matchup for Detroit, specifically in Lambeau, the Lions have won the previous 3 meetings against the Green Bay Packers. Their last meeting was in Lambeau in January, and that kept Green Bay in a win-and-in scenario out of the postseason.
Aaron Rodgers' last game as a Packer.
Game. Yeah. And going into tonight, Green Bay, Tom Pelissero is saying that Aaron Jones who is questionable with the hamstring. It sounds like they're going to play him based on Pelissero's report, as well as Christian Watson. So Green Bay is getting some players back. But as far as the desperation feel that Green Bay may have thought based on the loss of these 2 players, it's not there. 2-1 against 2-1 tonight. The Lions with wins over, of course, Kansas City at Arrowhead, and a win this past week at home against the Falcons. Now they head to Lambeau on a short week and a quick turn. And, Chad, I think this is a big moment for the Lions because it's time to seize the moment from this perspective. Prove that the offseason chatter and talk and hype and expectations were worth the time spent paying attention to the organization for the first time in a long time. They have the talented roster. They have the offense that can go toe-to-toe with anyone. Ben Johnson interviewed for the Texans and Colts head coaching openings this past offseason. He's back and chose to come back to be the OC again and announced that he was done taking interviews because of the opportunity to propel into the next offseason where he's going to get even more. But beyond that, the young talent paired with the vets that seem to be coming together at the right time, traveling and going to Lambeau Thursday night, make a point. Prove that you're not just a wild card contender. In a division where the Packers are better than what we thought, Jordan Love has done a really nice job taking over and avoiding the distraction and the shadow of Aaron Rodgers. And the Lions are trying to avoid the shadow of their franchise. In the North, the Bears, awful. The Vikings, 0-3. And their chatter in the Vikings locker room Justin Jefferson's pissed off because he's tired of all the trade discussion at 0-3 within the organization. They're losing close games. When the Lions win, by and large, they win by a possession or more. They did this past week. Go grab it tonight. I'm expecting big things from Detroit. And, again, a division win, your second NFC victory. And I think, Chad, on the first month of the season, wins at Arrowhead and at Lambeau, the Lions will be deemed as for real.
Yeah, it's a big boy type moment for them. And it's not something that's unprecedented. You brought up they've won the last 3 times at Lambeau. But it feels like
last 3 times just playing Green Bay.
Yeah, it feels more like a seizing of exactly what they should be right now.
Yeah.
That was the win in Kansas City felt bigger. This feels like something that should be expected right now, that they need to go ahead and accomplish.
Yeah.
Not that it's not a really good win on the road, but it feels like this should happen.
Well,
whereas the win in Kansas City felt like this big franchise-defining moment that the Lions have arrived, and then they followed that up with a home loss to Seattle the very next week. This is a chance to really get some momentum going.
But it is, and it feels like it should happen, but we haven't seen it in 6 years where the Lions have had the outright lead in their own division in week 4 or later. That hasn't happened since 2016. They can do that tonight. I mean, that seems very small, but those are the hurdles that you're trying to get past as a franchise, and you're trying to lock in with, for the most part, a roster full of inexperience. And if you can do it on the road, that's where you're battle tested, especially in the NFC, which is wide open with teams a lot like Detroit and a lot like Green Bay. Trying to be more than just average, run-of-the-mill, 9 wins, 8 wins, and trying to lock in what could be a home field advantage in the postseason as a 2 or 3 seed, maybe even the 1. But to do that, you've got to win games like this.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I'm not just saying that because I'm wearing sort of a Detroit Lions color today. I didn't even mean to do that.
And props to Jordan Love and what they've done with the Packers, winning some games that I didn't think they would.
He looked incredible on a few throws.
He's been outstanding.
And that comeback on Sunday against the Saints.
Been outstanding. Chad, from pro to college, and as far as the sound bites are concerned, we're hearing a lot of that from head coaches right now in the Power 5.
And I love these A&E biography series on pro wrestlers.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things to watch. I know you're a fan of great wrestling promos that have been cut over the years.
Right.
Hutton sometimes before the show will fire up some of The Rock at some point. We love Chris Jericho when he came back as Y2J.
Vince McMahon.
Love these moments. I've referenced yesterday the Iron Sheik was one of the great villains of all time, firing up not just the opponent, but all of America with his rhetoric, and played
Jim
that
Ross
villain perfectly.
Cussing out Triple H.
Yeah, wrestling icons and villains that the fans would buy into it so much that they would be in danger when they entered the arena, things being thrown at them.
Cornette.
That's when you know you're a good heel. That's when you know you're a good villain. This is what makes pro wrestling pro wrestling. This is the fundamental art form of who we are. Conflict, right, throughout time. You could go and read something from the ancient Greeks, and it's going to have protagonist, antagonist, a conflict, a resolution of some sort, or a tragedy in the end of it. Pro wrestling promoters, they knew this well. They set everything up the same way. Pro wrestling is the male soap opera. That's really all that it is. College football is becoming a male soap opera week after week. This is the true Deion Coach Prime effect on college football that we're witnessing. Deion Sanders is no stranger to a soundbite. Deion Sanders knows how to milk attention out of every possible angle, and he's going to say exactly what he thinks. And when he knows something is going to get a big response that he believes, he's going to say it louder and even more. He's going to talk trash after a win. He's going to talk trash sometimes about the opponent, and we can't get enough of it. But now what's happening is a situation where there can be too much of a good thing. A little bit of controversy is good. A little bit of trash talk is fine. Some coaching animosity, some coaches being honest about their animosity, I think is good for the sport and natural. But when everyone is trying to respond to Deion Sanders by being a little bit of Deion Sanders, and I'm talking to Dan Lanning, I'm talking to Ryan Day, whatever that was after the game against Notre Dame, about Lou Holtz. We're seeing more and more Jay Norvell. Jay Norvell, I'd never heard Jay Norvell say a word until he talked about, I was taught by my parents that I take my hat and glasses off and show respect when I talk to people or enter a room. That's the first I'd ever heard Jay Norvell's voice. Why? Because he was playing Deion Sanders. College coaches are looking around and seeing that Colorado is breaking ratings records. Every piece of media is talking about Deion Sanders in Colorado. And their response to that is to get louder, to say more, to get angrier and go after rivals, go after former coaches that are 86 years old that had something to say about your program. I find it entertaining for now. If everyone starts doing it, there is a law of diminishing returns with this stuff. There is an increasing desensitization of all of this, where you're going to be desensitized to coaches talking trash. It's going to feel more like wrestling. WWE, which, hey, still gets good ratings. People care about it. People are always going to care about college football. But I'd be wary if I were a college coach that is going down this route and it's not who you are. I see Dan Lanning, and I think that is who he is. We're seeing his personality, just more of it with this. But don't try to be something that you're not, just to try to catch up with Deion Sanders.
Yeah, I don't think the coaches that we've heard from have been fake. I think it's been genuine. But unlike WWE, in regards to the fight promotion, these coaches are more like UFC, where you don't control the outcome after talking trash, or saying, "Hey, look over here. We're showing you something that needs to be acknowledged." If you go out and continue to win after doing this, you'll get that acknowledgement, and we'll buy into the hype, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can prove us wrong, and you'll start getting the recognition that you feel you deserve. Or you certainly won't be slighted the way that you're complaining about. But go out and lose and get knocked off a few times, and, you're back to the silence, using Colorado State as an example, that we're used to from said programs. And that, it's not, Ryan Day's different, but as far as Washington State, Colorado State, even Matt Rule at Nebraska was brought up post-game, but it was more about Shador than it was Matt Rule, even though Rule responded. Point being, it's still the star power that's going to drive it. And you just have to be in the right lane whenever that camera and that attention is now pointed at you. And then you have to show up and produce afterwards. So, and to their credit, Washington State has been doing that.
Well, and I don't think we're there yet. But in a sport where there's no draft and it's all about recruiting talent, it benefits you to have people talking about you and to have some positive momentum and energy going, or coverage in general. So I want to guard against coaches that are not being themselves. I do think Dan Lanning was himself. I think Ryan Day just allowed his emotions to take over.
Yeah.
That was genuinely who he was, but probably not the moment or the guy to go after in that moment. But I don't want coaches to start fabricating this sort of persona that I need to do this now in order to stay relevant and get recruits for my program. I want coaches to be themselves. And I think most coaches have been guarded with the media and in public as opposed to what they'll do with their team. Dan Lanning in Oregon decided to release exactly what he said to the team. That's fine. I loved it. The behind-the-scenes footage, but that's him talking to his locker room also.
Yep. And the behind-the-scenes footage, that's another example. That's also what Deion is doing at Colorado. That's not what you're getting, though, from USC.
No.
Instead, they're just, going back and forth with they're exchanging pleasantries.
Yeah, this is the exact opposite. This is like the old school.
And the media policy is also the exact opposite.
Well, we're talking a lot about Lou Holtz. This was the Lou Holtz policy. Lou Holtz almost became a running punchline. How he would treat every team when he talked about them like they were the greatest football team, like they were the Lombardi Packers. He could be playing, Hampton, and he'd treat them like it was Joe Namath, the quarterback,
Saban's got that
and
too.
the '68 Jets. Yeah, there's a lot of that. That's sort of the old school coaching mentality. But Lincoln Riley and Deion Sanders are going out of their way to pay each other compliments. Lincoln Riley also think part of this with this compliment machine that's going on back and forth. He doesn't want to get embroiled in another media controversy, given they're shutting out the beat writer last week. I don't think he's in a big rush to do that.
But also, it's clear that's not their vibe and personality. The fact that they shut out the beat writer when you're taking on the program that would credential 1,000 if you needed credentials to get into Boulder. the personality is, hey, we don't want to draw attention behind the scenes. We don't want to draw attention on anything other than the program.
Yep.
And we'll find out if that's good or bad. But, the expectations are Caleb Williams and company are going in there and rolling.
If it's another Oregon this week and it is just a washout quickly, where it was in that game, it was over in the first quarter between Oregon and Colorado.
It was.
I'm anxious to see the reaction to that. I don't think it will be. I think that Colorado is going to do some things offensively in this game because USC's defense is so bad. Oregon's defense, light years better than USC's right now.
But
I do think there's going to be some scoring, but USC should win.
Yeah, and does the pivot occur if the blowout happens where the attention then goes to the top half of what is a very competitive conference moving forward nationally? Or do you just continue to have Deion in Colorado on the national stage because they're pulling the numbers? We'll really find out if people start paying attention to the Pac-12 and how good it is. It's not just top-heavy. That middle pack is what makes it so competitive.
Yeah.
And do you get USC against, another opponent next week instead of Colorado versus, Stanford? Because keep in mind, Colorado State drew game day and big noon kickoff.
This could be the last week of Colorado being the story.
Unless they try to go with another story that is relevant and the numbers drop.
I think other stories are going to take place. Look, if Duke beats Notre Dame this weekend, there's your story.
Absolutely.
There's a story for you right there.
Absolutely.
At that point, you looking down the schedule and saying, can Duke win the ACC?
Duke has the opportunity to do what Notre Dame could not do to Ohio State last week.
They've already got a win over Clemson. That's a big one on Saturday.
No doubt. Armando Salguero discusses the big NFL matchups and headlines. That's next on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network.
Good morning. The NFL has filed a grievance against the NFL Players Association over running backs being possibly coerced/coached into feigning injuries. That's right. Faking injuries is what the NFLPA suggested in memos to running backs whining about not getting guaranteed money. Well, let me tell you something. I don't blame the NFL. There are provisions in the collectively bargained agreement that say NFL players in general must give their best effort. Well, if you're telling NFL running backs to fake injuries, and have we seen NFL running backs fake injuries? I don't blame the NFL for getting a little crabby. Let's talk about it. Jonathan Taylor of my beloved Colts, he's out, had ankle surgery way back in November, still can't go. His agent said, however, that he could pass a physical right now. My thought is, if Jonathan Taylor could, quote, pass a physical right now, why is he on the PUP? The agent said this a week or two ago. If he knew he could pass a physical, maybe you sit out a game or two. You don't go on a 4-game PUP. But here you see Tom Pelissero saying what a lot of us that were a little bit crabby of. Filed a grievance over allegations the union advised running backs to consider feigning or exaggerating injuries to gain leverage in contract talks, and seeking an order for the union to cease and desist from such improper conduct. I think Jonathan Taylor is absolutely faking. Look, I don't know. What do I know? I know this, though. Jonathan Taylor walked around pretty good at training camp. Jonathan Taylor's been whining about this. Jonathan Taylor and his agent, as I said, have already said, yeah, he could pass a physical. Let me tell you about Austin Eckler, an ankle injury with no timetable for return. Really? I coached for 30 years. A lot of guys with ankle injuries, high ankle injuries, tweaked ankles, you name it, and everything in between. And there was always a timetable for them to return. But all of a sudden, Austin Eckler, who is the most vocal of the running backs, I can't return. I got an ankle. See, ankles are tough because there is swelling, there is black and blue. You do know, but also when you get healed from an ankle and you take a bad step, a lot of times on a heel, it can hurt and there's no outward sign. It's like mental health. You can say, I got mental health. It's like verbal abuse. You can say a guy verbally abused me. You can say anything you want. So Austin Eckler, Jonathan Taylor, certainly there are questions. I did not see the Saquon Barkley injury live. I saw it many, many times on replay. I guess he's hurt. We'll see how long Saquon Barkley stays out. There are some legitimate guys that are hurt. I think we all agree Nick Chubb certainly hurt. I think J.K. Dobbins hurt. Aaron Jones seems to be hurt. Chase Edmonds seems to be hurt. But you see what I'm doing here between Eckler and Barkley and Chubb and Taylor and Edmonds and Dobbins and Jones? You got a lot of running backs hurt. Why would I, if this was in fact run like a business, give guaranteed money to NFL running backs? They just get hurt. And truthfully, the Colts just won a road football game with a running back. Zach Moss looked all right. Got into a hole. Okay, fine. There's not a chance in holy hell that I am giving money to an NFL running back that is guaranteed for anything longer than a year. I'll give you a year's guarantee. I'll give you a 3-year deal, 1-year guarantee.
Sixth and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow rolls on. Every Tuesday and Friday, you can catch the 5 spot with Donovan McNabb and Armando Salguero. New podcast and show here on the OutKick Network, OutKick.com, plus Facebook, X, YouTube, Tuesdays and Fridays on OutKick.
Hutton, any day of the week here at 6th and Peabody, you can get you a nice Arnold Palmer. They have sweet tea and lemonade in the drink machine. It's a game changer. Really is. I try to hold myself to one a week with the sugar.
Is it one
That's
a week?
involved? One a week. I pick one day, and I decide to go Arnold Palmer's on that day. And every time.
But you crave it every day, though.
Absolutely.
How do you gauge which day you're going in on the Arnold Palmer?
I just kind of wake up in the morning and
Today's the day.
take some blades of grass from my lawn and I throw it up in the air. Yeah. And
Is it Masters season yet?
It feels like an Arnold Palmer day. Today,
fair enough.
I step out on my deck and I smell the air and I say, this is a good day for Arnold Palmer.
It's always a good day for Armando Salguero joining the show. And we say hello to OutKick's NFL reporter. Armando, good to see you, man. How are things?
Things are good. I'm not Chandler Jones, so things are very good.
Yeah, how about that saga, man?
It's terrible. It really is. It's terrible and it's scary. Look, you did that live video today on X, and we wrote about
saying
it.
He was hospitalized against his will.
Well, that was a couple of days ago. Today he did this whole new thing.
Yeah.
And
about
we
Aaron
wrote
Hernandez.
about it. Right.
Oh.
Among other things, by the way. And, he's making allegations about Aaron Hernandez's suicide and his coach, Josh McDaniels, and ownership and former teammates and the Illuminati and Obama. But having said all of that, which is detailed in the OutKick story, the most troubling thing to me was when he's walking around his neighborhood and he's approaching his neighbor or one of his neighbors. And at one point, he's talking about unloading a mag on the guy. That's not good. Not good. He says he comes in peace, but later on, he's talking about, popping him.
Yeah, and let's also just mention, this is not some random post for those not following. This has been going on since at least August and July because he posted screenshots of text exchanges with McDaniels a few weeks ago, right before the season started. that were predated like a month and a half prior. And there are warning signs, as Armando is pointing to in the detailed article at OutKick.com. Pray for Chandler Jones and that he gets the help that he needs. And thankfully, the warning signs are being noticed. Let's just put it that way, instead of just being ignored or laughed at as some crazy dude who's gone off the reservation. It seems much more than that, and it's a trend that needs to stop but has continued, and hopefully he gets that help. Armando, at what point do you go to the NFL game of the week because Taylor Swift is there?
Oh my God. Let me see. Would the NFL game of the week involves the Kansas City Chiefs?
Right.
And maybe
Zach Wilson's New York Jets.
Well, no, that's not the NFL game of the week.
Okay.
Sorry. That's the circus in the parking lot and watching security game of the week. That is not on the field game of the week. And I don't know, man. Look, I guess it's a good thing that she is now interested in not necessarily the NFL, but an NFL player.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it's a good thing that now all of her minions and fans are interested in the NFL anew, because they didn't know that the Kansas City Chiefs were a big deal previously, and now they're making Travis Kelce, who was up until now anonymous, apparently, they're making him a big deal. He's got the highest grossing and highest selling jersey in the NFL right now. But I'm sorry. I just, I don't really care about wags, and I don't really care about singers dating NFL players unless we're talking about Joe DiMaggio and Marilyn Monroe. So that's my age. Okay.
Well, I'm thinking the only thing that could make the Dolphins season any more dominant is to have Taylor Swift at every game at Hard Rock. And I'm thinking the Titans radio booth, the visiting radio booth, is right. You have to push your gear through J-Lo's after party club, which is in that stadium. And I'm thinking, well, that's every week at Hard Rock. That's not necessarily Arrowhead.
What's more electric, the Dolphins offense or Taylor Swift's Eras tour? That's the segue we'll go into with this Dolphins team.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have no idea what that Eras tour is, except for the little moment where they do that little witchcraft thing, which I'm not all about.
The score is 70-20 on the tour as well.
Yeah. So the Dolphins, my gosh, a little electric, a little hard to deal with as an offense, but the Buffalo Bills are pretty good, right? They're pretty good on defense. They're pretty good in the front seven. They've got the defensive player of the week. It's gonna be a great matchup in Orchard Park, where they don't serve lasagna, by the way, but whatever.
9 takeaways, 7 interceptions, and I'm glad we get the recurring character there from Armando. Yeah, 3-0 against 2-1, and it's the NFL's top offense against the number 2 defense. The Dolphins, 130 points, second most in the start of a 3-game span, and I mean, who's to say they can't continue this dominance offensively with how they've started and where they are right now, Chad?
Does this have a chance to be kind of an era-defining type offense? Like we think about the greatest show on turf. Is this one that we're going to have a nickname for 20 years from now and look back and say, oh, remember that Dolphins team and what they were able to accomplish? It seems like with the speed on that offense, Armando, the potential is limitless for this squad.
Can we pump brakes?
No, not after 70 points. I mean, how many times that happened in NFL history?
Well,
three teams have done it, I think, right? Something like that.
I grant you 70 points is a lot, but you have to give me the Denver Broncos defense laid down. And it was ugly, and they were just, not into it. There was a moment there, a play there, where there was 5 Denver Broncos defenders on the ground, and none of them were showing any desire or urgency to get up. And so at that point, the Dolphins are going to just it's a bad day to have a bad day against the Miami Dolphins offense. And if you're not really trying, and if you've got Justin Simmons on the sideline and not playing, you're going to have a bad day. My guess is that teams like the Buffalo Bills, teams like the San Francisco 49ers, teams like the Philadelphia Eagles, who the Dolphins play later this season, won't be laying down. And so I just think that when we see the Dolphins do not similar, because they're not going to do similar, but when they do stuff to those teams, then we can talk about an offense that is generational. I remind you, the week before the Dolphins scored 70 on Denver, they scored 24 on the Patriots.
What does that say about Sean Payton, that level of effort from Denver and their defense in that game?
Yeah, pride comes before a fall, gentlemen. Sean Payton is the guy that was mocking the effort of the Broncos last year, calling it a circus, saying that Nathaniel Hackett and his coaching staff were terrible. Also, by the way, Sean Payton, when he was, employed by Fox, he was ripping Tua, and to the point where he was saying that he might get benched for Teddy Bridgewater. So, crow-eating time for Sean Payton.
And now Sean Payton's Broncos travel to Chicago to take on the 0-3 Bears. How do you describe this matchup, Armando, if you don't mind diving into that thought? And what happens to Vance Joseph if they actually watch the Bears offense come alive this week?
Yeah, this is hapless against hopeless. Don't ask me which one is which. I called it on OutKick a matchup for the ages, the dark ages. And so this is just bad against bad. You know how teams, when they practice, they go good against good? This is bad against bad. This is the 32nd ranked defense against the 31st ranked defense. And this is an offense that can't get out of its own way against an offense that, is better with Russell Wilson, but still not exactly, I would say, outstanding.
The Packers host the Lions this evening, Thursday Night Football. They will meet again on Thanksgiving Day. And what seems to be a very pivotal matchup for both within that division. What do you make of where the Lions are currently based on all the talk of the offseason and the fact that Jordan Love is playing this well early in the season for Green Bay in a matchup that will determine the top of this division early in the year?
So it's early, right?
Yep.
Again, pump the brakes time and all that. But we talked up the Lions a lot in the offseason, a lot.
Yep.
So if they come out of the gates 2-2 after a loss tonight, they will have underperformed the talk. The talk is not the Lions are a 500 team. The talk was the Lions are going to be, the class of that division. They're going to the playoffs, and they're going to do damage because they really finished strong last year, and they've got a lot of talent. Guess what? 2-2 is not that, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm with you.
And with Green Bay, and we've mentioned it on this show before, you guys have done a great job of outlining it. The Green Bay Packers have had a great quarterback for 30 years. And dang it, they might have one for 10 more or 15 more, because Jordan Love, with the big fourth quarter comeback last week, down 17 points, and they win the game. and he brought them back with a touchdown pass and a touchdown run. That is very vexing to the NFC North.
Every year we have a couple of very vexing, to steal your word there, Armando, outcomes, results across the league. Where will Cardinals over Cowboys and Josh Dobbs' performance in that game against that Cowboys defense rank when we look back at the regular season and say, oh, wait a minute, this Cowboys team lost to this Cardinals team? How?
Wow. Well, how is they got out physical, they got beat up. I mean, the Cardinals rushed for 220 yards against the defense that we all thought was like,
yeah.
You see, again, the pump the brakes thing. We thought that defense was generational when they ruined New York.
The doomsday defense.
Yeah.
I didn't know Diggs meant that much to the run defense.
Josh Dobbs, like, turns them into a turnstile, basically.
Josh Dobbs cutting promos on the sideline saying, just give me the ball back. We're going to go win, is what he's telling all his teammates. I'm thinking, man, all right, here we go.
Right. So, look, what I saw from the Cowboys last week, it is not just a one-game concern because the defense, showed it can't stop the run, that it's soft and it's weak up front. And the offense, Dak Prescott in the red zone is useless. I mean, he threw one pass into a sea of red. There was 3 Cardinals defenders, and amazingly, one of them intercepted the pass. Shockingly. Bad day for Dak Prescott, and it feeds the narrative that he is not elite.
Never a bad day to chat with Armando Salguero. If you can't get along with this man, that's a you problem. It's not his problem. OutKick's senior NFL reporter.
Donovan McNabb gets along with him.
No doubt. Check out the 5 spot every Tuesday and Friday with Armando Salguero and Donovan McNabb. Hey, thanks so much, and enjoy week 4.
All right, man. By the way, it's Donovan McNabb and our...
Not when you're on our show. Not when you're our guest.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump, now at least have to see, like, senile, not all there, probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. And I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be the stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course. Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm gonna go Ron DeSantis.
Okay. Why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro. There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Viking show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm going to say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
Because Game of Thrones is all about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Yeah, baby, I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well.
Yeah.
And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
Sixth and Peabody, our location. Yeehaw Beer, Old Smoky Moonshine. Hutton and Withrow, Hot Mic across the OutKick network. You can join Chad in the chat right now. Go to the YouTube page, search out OutKick, hit subscribe, pound the like button if you're watching live right now. Give us a thumbs up and chat away. Chat with Chad.
Chat with Chad.
Chit Chad.
Remember we had an old podcast called Chit Chad back in the day.
Very successful.
Highly successful. It had some great guests, one of which is sitting to the right of me right now. Jonathan Hutton was a guest on that podcast. I watched the Saint of Second Chances about the Vec family, the owners, which is a great podcast. I did a Fox News Minute on it. Great podcast about Bill and Mike Vec on Netflix. Dave Dombrowski was a big part of it.
Yeah.
Dave Dombrowski was another person that I interviewed at the Standard in Nashville for the Chit Chad podcast. Brought back memories.
Tremendous podcast, Chad. You should bring it back.
I will at some point.
Okay. Resurrect.
Under my own umbrella.
No doubt. No doubt.
It'll have to be a Chad Withrow production, but it may be done at some point.
Under the umbrella here at the OutKick studio at 6th and Peabody is Pick Your Poison, not good options. Davey Hudson brings them right now.
Yeah, guys, we even have a new stinger for this
Nice.
one. It's
Looks
very,
great.
Oh,
I know,
looks
very
good.
dark and sinister, so I really wanted to go with it.
So dark.
So we're going to
So
start. Pick your poison for those who want to play at home.
Well done.
Guys are getting a terrible option, and they have to choose the one, I guess, that they could live with the most.
Okay.
And so for our first one, it's the Nathaniel Hackett experience. Just to give a little bit of background, Nathaniel Hackett, the head coach for the Denver Broncos of 2022, and currently the offensive coordinator for the New York Jets. So for this situation, you are reliving this experiment with Nathaniel Hackett, but we're only going up to week 3 in the NFL. So that way, obviously, a lot could happen the rest of this year for the Jets. But for the offseason through weeks 1, 2, and 3 of last year in Denver, and then the offseason, weeks 1, 2, and 3 in New York for this season.
So in thinking through, I initially wanted to lean towards Hackett in Denver because
that you would take Hackett in Denver.
Yeah, well, yes, as the head coach in 2022, simply because through 3 weeks you still thought, well, Russell Wilson's the quarterback, right? But in thinking about that, I'm now flipping to Jets Nathaniel Hackett because, number one, Sean Payton looks like a fool in this current 3-week run. And Aaron Rodgers is the reason why Hackett is there. Just like he was brought into Denver originally, he actually is coaching Aaron Rodgers, and he can't lose. Hackett can't lose this season because Zach Wilson is the quarterback now. And no doubt that, Robert Saleh is okay with Aaron Rodgers and calling out. Aaron Rodgers is making those decisions. if they didn't want Zach Wilson in the locker room, or if they do, and Rodgers didn't, guess who would not be in the locker room? Zach Wilson. We also know that Rodgers wants Hackett there. I lean towards this version, even though it's a nightmare scenario for what was an incredible run of offseason hype with Rodgers and the Jets and everything going right.
So you're taking...
I'm taking this year's version of Hackett.
Okay. I'm taking this question more as who's doing the better job with that. Who am I taking? Which performance through 3 games?
Relive experience.
Off-season, relive the experience. So I'm going, and it's close, I'm going with Sean Payton as the poison that I'm going to drink in this scenario. Sean Payton has been awful, but Sean Payton didn't have to bring in some dude to sit in the booth and make decisions for him.
Yeah.
The way Nathaniel Hackett did. Yeah. Sean Payton, based on these 3 games and his offseason, I'm giving him the slight edge, but a big part of my decision-making is I've seen Sean Payton win a Super Bowl as a head coach. So I can't, this is like when they say, strike that from the record in the courtroom, but everybody heard it, right? I know he won a Super Bowl. So that's obviously going to cloud my decision and my judgment on this. So I'm taking Sean Payton over the Nathaniel Hackett experience, but it is so much closer than I ever would have imagined between those two through 3 games. Incredibly bad for Payton.
Crazy, yeah.
I just thought of this question, and we can save this one for another day, but I will throw it out there.
Yeah.
Did Sean Payton coming back to the sidelines hurt his Hall of Fame chances?
Yes.
It could.
Yes. But
if they don't turn it around, this year's going to be bad, but if they turn it around, it won't. But
he's already, it's a steep uphill climb for him anyway with Bounty Gate. He's suspended for a year.
Yeah.
Like it was already damaged. But the tarnished is the right word. But you're not supposed to factor in certain things off the field, but that was on the field, and that factors in. Although we've seen players suspended, for various things that are Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
But he's, he on the field as a coach. I mean, the dude just was a part of an historic, lopsided performance that you don't want to be a part of.
But it wasn't that bad because of Bounty Gate, he had Kevin James play him in a movie.
That's true.
Fair enough.
I watched that movie, by the way.
It's a win-win. All right, guys, our next question, we're going to stay with the same theme, but it's Wilson or Wilson. Who are you taking at this point in their current career, Zach Wilson or Russell Wilson? And you have to take on their current contract. That's part of the deal.
Oh, okay.
Adam Sandler's wife, Jackie, played Kevin James, Sean Payton's ex-wife, in the movie.
Wow.
So there's one for you. I actually enjoyed that movie. It was cheesy, but pretty good. Look, I'm taking Russell Wilson. Zach Wilson. Russell Wilson is a cheese ball with the Broncos country let's ride and everything else that he does. He's not a complete head case on the field. I think Zach Wilson's becoming a head case. I think psychologically and from a confidence standpoint, he does not have it. I was expecting a little bit of a jump from last year to this year, but he once again looks like a guy that I brought up on the show, Hutton. I would honestly ask him the question, is this what you want to do? Do you want to be the starting quarterback for the Jets right now, given everything going on around this team and the criticism that comes with it? And I don't know that he does. So I'm taking Russell Wilson. I don't doubt that Russell Wilson wants to be a starting quarterback in the league and wants to start for the Broncos, so I'm taking him.
There is a nuance or a caveat to what Davey's setting up, though, because you said I would be taking on the current contract situation.
Yes.
But am I picking in the current point of their career? Am I selecting this just it ends as of this selection right now, or am I picking like who I would want to side with moving forward?
We're kind of moving forward because
then it's Russell Wilson, because my answer last week was Zach Wilson doesn't need to be in the league. But like contractually, I would pick Zach Wilson.
No, because you're not
because
spending
I
so
can
much.
dump him a year from now, a season from now. Like that's the other part of it.
Yeah, that's where it kind of makes that question a little bit more.
So I would take Zach Wilson because either way, the franchise is losing with either pick currently. But at least with the Jets, you can. Yeah.
But you're taking Russell Wilson. This isn't.
I'm taking Russell Wilson, the quarterback.
Take the accounting out of it. Who's the better player?
Oh, Russell Wilson.
Right now.
Russell Wilson. Yes. But I don't want either one of them. I would.
Well, that's why it's a beautiful pick your poison.
But that's why the details matter on the question. If I'm factoring the contract, give me Zach Wilson.
All right, guys. So our next one, speaking of which, Zach Wilson, Russell Wilson combined 0-5 right now as the starting quarterback this season. But, I mean, someone has to win this week when we look at a couple of these matchups, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's theoretically the tie, but you can only watch one NFL game this week, and your options are the 0-3 Broncos at the 0-3 Bears, or the 0-3 Vikings at the 0-3 Panthers.
It's an easy answer for me. It's Broncos-Bears. I have such limited interest in the Carolina Panthers this year. Bryce Young might come back, great. I'd like to see him play a little bit more as a rookie. Vikings, been there, done that. They're 0-3. Sort of know what to expect with that team. I have no clue what the hell we're going to see in that Bears-Broncos game based on what they've done. You've got defensive coordinators resigning midweek under mysterious terms. You've got Justin Fields looking like he doesn't know what sport he's playing, and the coaches that are coaching him, that they could be coaching cricket for all we know with the lack of knowledge. Sean Payton's defense has given up 70 points, and as Armando Salguero told us, laying down on the field repeatedly. Sign me up for the car crash. I'm watching the car wreck that is Broncos Bears.
That's the right answer, but let me not overlook the Vikings. If the Vikings are on the road and they lose to Carolina and go to 0-4, we could be witnessing the meltdown in real time. We're already seeing that in Denver. We've been watching it in Chicago. But when Jefferson is popping off, and rightfully so, at 0-3, they've lost 3 games by combined 11 points. He's saying, hey, enough with the trade discussion. Well, at 0-4, that's different. At 0-4, your season's done. And tonight they'll know the leader in the NFC North. It'll be Green Bay or Detroit, and you're still staring up at the other one. And you're on par with the team that is already a part of the car crash, Chicago. You're right there with them as the Minnesota Vikings, a team that won 13 games a year ago. So that is worth mentioning. But it's the Panthers that lead me to pick the other game because we expect the Panthers to suck. They're in rebuild. They're going through the rookie quarterback phase. So, yeah, give me Denver and Chicago. And while Chicago's defensive coordinator resigns randomly, we could see Vance Joseph fired randomly at halftime if, for whatever reason, Luke Getsy's offense goes off the same way Washington and Miami's have. You have to throw the Commanders in to the mix and what has happened with Denver. It's not just Miami. It's like 109 points combined over the last 2 weeks. We could see that more than just a car crash, Chad. We could see the 18-wheeler go off the pedestrian bridge.
Oh yeah, it's going to be bad.
With what this game could be.
There will be blood.
But I mean, don't watch Red Zone for this.
Yeah.
You're not going to see the game.
It's the easy answer for me.
Don't watch Red Zone.
I might watch Broncos Bears just for the hell of it. I just might want to watch this game.
So me saying Adam Thielen revenge game wouldn't swing your opinion?
No.
Okay. I am
Adam Thielen revenge.
One of the stats you got later in One Big Thing, Hutton, for the Vikings, looking at those stats and then seeing that the Vikings are 0-3 is pretty remarkable. And we'll get to that here in roughly 8 minutes. But, guys, our final one for Pick Your Poison, worst places to live. And your 3 options, 2 of these I got stats on. One of them I don't have stats, and you can understand why I don't have stats.
Okay.
But first on this list, North Korea, Venezuela, and Chad.
So this is your best question ever. This is incredible. And I love that you threw in the country of Chad there, because in 5th grade I had a geography bee, and we had to profile a country and present it. And what country did Chad choose? You're right. Chad. That was my country. I can still remember, without even looking it up, that the capital is N'Djamena. They have Lake Chad.
It's actually Chad's
that
middle
is the
name,
southwest border. That is the 2nd largest wetland in all of Africa. Let's go ahead with an elimination game here. I'm eliminating Venezuela. Venezuela sounds a little bit awesome with some parts of it, quite frankly. So of these 3,
that was going to be my
that's the one that I'm going to elevate, right? So it's between Chad and North Korea. I'm picking Chad only because I think it's easier to get out of Chad. I don't know how heavily fortified the border is with Niger or with Nigeria or with the Central African Republic, but I bet I can get across the border in Chad to another place easier than getting out of North Korea.
Is the internet and cell phone allowed in Chad? That's all I need to know.
I mean, it might be allowed, but I don't know if they even have access.
Yeah, I don't know if they have Wi-Fi.
Because they don't have access, not because it's banned or blocked. outside the country.
No.
Yeah, give me Chad.
The worst place is if I'm picking my poison of where I'm going to live, it's Venezuela, followed by Chad.
I'd rather the
by
difficulty.
A distant third being North Korea.
Yeah, the difficulty needs to be getting to the country, not leaving the country. I'd rather choose the long path to get in and the long journey compared to easy to get into North Korea. You're not leaving.
No, that's the problem. Again, I can get out of Chad easier, which that's what excites me. Davey, is there a civil war going on in Chad right now that I'm unaware of?
Yeah, I don't have that much information. I mean, a lot of those Central African countries, unfortunately, are going through it.
Unstable is how we describe them in
Burundi is
geopolitics.
currently battling one. South Sudan's going through a civil war. And, yeah, just a lot of those countries.
I know a
in that
Chad who
area.
will lead Chad out of that misery.
I'm your Chad. That's going to be my slogan for Chadians everywhere. I'm your Chad. I'm your Chad. I'm your Chad. Let's get the chant going when I speak.
Good Chad.
Yes.
I was surprised to see that in
Chad,
terms of
bad Chad.
misery index, Venezuela was actually the top of most countries in the world.
Tell that to Ronald Acuna Jr.
Yeah.
He's Venezuelan. And any country that birthed him, I'm
misery
okay with.
index, but you can't poll the citizens of North Korea.
I'm not seeing any North Koreans in the 40-70 club. I'll tell you that much.
That's right. Coming up, one big thing on every NFL game for Week 4, and then Ryan Leaf joins us in hour number 3. Stay tuned.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
There's no doubt in my mind he could have caught the ball in his back pocket if he'd been running. Blowing a lead and losing a game is 100 times more lasting and painful in some clubhouses than losing the game 15-0. If I had to start a list in the last 10 years of horrible underachievers, he's at the top.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. A bold taste of the Southern Legend.
Just like that, the final hours here for the Thursday edition. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network. Join us on YouTube. You can stream us live, catch us on demand here and OutKick.com. But search out OutKick on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and Chad's in the chat. Give us a thumbs up, pound the like button, and we appreciate you tuning in.
Hutton, you've got one big thing on every NFL game. I've got one big thing on my country of Chad.
Go ahead.
Right now, did you know that Chad is the 20th largest country in the world by landmass? It is slightly bigger than Peru and slightly smaller than Peru and slightly larger than South Africa. Just so you know. Not a small country, that Chad.
Yeah, that's, hashtag good Chad.
Good Chad.
Over here.
Good Chad.
So you've got Thursday Night Football tonight. It appears as though that Jones is going to be a running back for Green Bay as they host Detroit. Christian Watkins is apparently expected to give it a go, both coming back from hamstring issues. And you've got Watson, who's the expectation was he was the top guy, and Love is still putting up big numbers. That becomes a huge story if Green Bay ends up 3-1 after September against Detroit, who would be falling to 2-2 with their second loss within the NFC, one being to the division leader, which would be Green Bay after 4 weeks.
Well, and I know one guy, tore his Achilles and is out for the year, but think about what we would have thought about the fate of Aaron Rodgers with the Jets this point of the year and where they would be sitting versus the Packers.
Well,
and now look at the reality of the Packers possibly at 3-1.
Speaking of sitting, the franchise QBs that they've had that, Favre came after he was in Atlanta, but you have Love sit behind Rodgers and Rodgers sat behind Favre. And the ability that the franchise has to just roll to the next guy after developing them. And it was now or never if you're Green Bay to figure out what you have in Jordan Love. They gave him a 1-year contract based on that. Going into week 4, just a couple of notes here, and this is one to keep tabs of. Who's winning the Super Bowl this year? October tells us the group of teams that will be in the hunt. The NFL enters October this week, and since 2011, only one Super Bowl champion has lost more than one game in October in their title season. So you've got 31 days coming up, and just be on the lookout for who's starting to find. Based on that stat, you can eliminate teams that aren't good in October from Super Bowl contention. But you don't eliminate teams that are bad in September. That's also important to note. So Vikings, Chargers, others that got off to a slow start, Cleveland, you can still point to reasons for hope because go on a run here and you position yourself for the playoff run towards the end of the season. You're playing your best football at that point. Recent history, 2-1 teams that win in week 4, they improve their playoff chance to 64% of teams that have started 3-1, they make the postseason. 37% of teams that open the season 2-2 go on to make the postseason. Now, that's going to be changed a bit because this goes back to 1990. But this will change a bit because you get the extra team now, the 7th team in each conference, and you have the wild card spot where normally you did not based on these stats. And only 6 NFL teams have made the playoffs after an 0-3 start. So, hey, Minnesota, it's now or never. You had the Texans that did it, the Bills, Lions, Chargers, and Buccaneers, and the 81 Jets. Chad, it is time for one big thing on every NFL game. And we start tonight, 2-1 against 2-1. Packers hosting the Detroit Lions. It's a big early season divisional game featuring 2 teams coming off of victories last week. 2 of Green Bay's 3 games this season have been decided by 1 point. The Lions 6-0 against the spread last season against the NFC North. Does that trend continue tonight on the road And a win for the Lions would achieve something they haven't done in 6 years. That would be actually having the sole possession of the division lead in Week 4 or further. Week 4, Week 5, that's the last time that happened. Week 5, 6 years ago. Falcons, Jags. This is your London kickoff. Jacksonville is playing back-to-back weeks in London. Starting this week, they're technically hosting Atlanta. Jacksonville's one of the bigger disappointments of the season thus far. Meanwhile, Atlanta comes off their first loss of the season. Jacksonville, they want to be London's team, let's face it. They'll host the Bills next week there. They've lost the last 3 games in London.
Wouldn't it be fitting, though, if this Jags team with high expectations got things right in London, given all the smoke around that team leaving Jacksonville?
And Ritter's the perfect quarterback to go against if you're trying to get right. Dolphins and Bills. Dolphins 3-0, Bills 2-1. Chad, 43 points per game. Miami's averaging that. 70 points last week helps. Buffalo averaging 30 points per game. The NFL's top 2 teams in scoring this season. 130 points total for Miami. That's the second most through 3 games in NFL history. Josh Allen 9-2 against Miami, including the postseason. He's won 9 of his last 10 matchups there. And he started each of those 11 games throwing for 3,000 yards, 30 touchdowns with just 7 picks in those matchups combined. Bills defense, 9 takeaways, 7 interceptions on those takeaways. Vikings and Panthers, 0-3 and 0-3. Oh, me too.
Maybe my favorite one of the weekend.
0-3, 0-3. Oh, by the way, the Bills, all the talk about the Dolphins offense, the Bills offense has outscored Vegas and Washington by a combined score of 75-13 over the last 2 games. Vikings and Panthers, not outscoring anyone 75-13 over the last 2 weeks. 2 winless teams. Past 20 years, only one team has made the playoffs after 0-3. That was Houston in 2018 with Watson. Cousins leads the league in passing yards. Jefferson leads the league in receiving yards. And Dave, you mentioned this earlier, Adam Thielen returns to face Minnesota. Broncos and Bears. Need we say more? Tune in for the car crash.
Game of the week.
That's your one big thing on this matchup. Loser.
Taylor Swift will not be at this Bears game like she was last
winner
week.
Remains a loser. Let's also just say that about this matchup. Ravens and Browns, 2-1 and 2-1. So far, Lamar Jackson, 73 completion percentage for through 3 games. He's only thrown, though, for just over 600 yards through the first 3 weeks. The Browns fans, they've watched their defense destroy opponents. Against the Steelers, 14 of the 26 points that were allowed by the teams, allowed by the Browns were on the offense, not the defense. One of the Steelers' field goals came after gaining just 5 yards on the drive, for instance. We know the domination that they had last week against Tennessee. Rams and Colts, the Rams playing consecutive road games. This is on a short week for them after the Monday night loss against Cincinnati. Colts are back home after 2 wins on the road for the franchise, including upsetting Baltimore in Baltimore last week. And the expectation is Richardson is back from concussion protocol to take on L.A. Bucks are hitting the road against the New Orleans Saints. 2-1 against 2-1. Jameis Winston will face his former team. He's in for Derek Carr, who's got the shoulder issue. The Commanders' the running back, Alvin Kamara, not the Commanders, Kamara, will also make his debut. Have we mentioned Kamara?
No.
Since the suspension? He's back.
I've seen some funny stuff he posted about coming back and being freed and being able to play, but that's about it. Do we consider Jameis Winston a really good backup option in the league in terms of backup quarterbacks?
Yes, because there are some miserable options. So, he's amongst the really good.
Don't have a lot of faith in him, but of backup quarterback options, there's not a lot better than Winston.
I'm with you there. Commanders on the road against the Eagles. The Eagles are 3-0. Washington is 2-1. The Commanders' offensive line allowed 9 sacks last week to Buffalo. Sam Howell, 4 interceptions. The Eagles, they have the opportunity to become just the 6th team in, this century to begin 4-0 in consecutive seasons. Philadelphia 3-0, 2 straight years for the first time since 92 and 93. Bengals, they got the win, a must-win on Monday night with a hobbled Joe Burrow, but they got it done. They're 1-2. So are the Tennessee Titans. That game played here in Nashville on Sunday afternoon. The Bengals have 2 winnable games now. They have the Titans and the Cardinals over the next 2 weeks. They place on the road here in Nashville, on the road in Arizona, and then they will have Seattle prior to their bye week. The Bengals, 29th rushing yards per game currently. They've got to get that going because that helps out Burrow, who can't move. Burrow averaging 4.7 yards per pass attempt right now. They have to get the run game going. Speaking of run game, same for Tennessee. Derrick Henry, fewest yards and carries through 3 weeks over the last 5 seasons.
This one feels big, a turning point for either one of these teams. 1-3 feels really bad for either one of these squads coming out of this game. 2-2, especially for Cincinnati, who started 0-2. Winning this one on the road.
You feel the same about the Titans, too, at 2-2.
Yeah,
weathering the storm and what's been it's been a thunderstorm.
It's been rough.
It's been rough. Oh, and so has been playing at home. If you're just the wagering betting type, the Titans 4-5 dating back to last year against the spread when playing at Nissan Stadium, for what it's worth. Late afternoon matchups, the Raiders and the Chargers. The Chargers, they have a week off after this game. Then they face the Cowboys and Chiefs in back-to-back weeks. They need this win at home in Los Angeles, despite what will likely be a home-type atmosphere for the Raiders. Getting to 2-2, though, for the Chargers, crucial. Keenan Allen's 18 receptions, the most in one game in Chargers franchise history. He's also the first Charger ever to have 15 or more catches, 200 or more yards receiving in the same game. So underrated. Week in and week out, Keenan Allen. Raiders are last in the NFL in rushing, 30th in yards per rush. And they do not have a rushing touchdown so far this year.
You know who is not underrated? Josh McDaniels. Never been described as underrated. That's not one description. I've not heard a single person describe Josh McDaniels as underrated.
Not underrated. Patriots or Cowboys. Patriots are 1-2. Cowboys 2-1. Mac Jones is 0-12 if the opponent scores more than 24 points. Can Dallas do that? I asked that because Belichick, he came up with a defense that held the Dolphins to 24 points in week 2. Can the Patriots do the same against Dak and company this week on the road as Zeke Elliott returns to Dallas to take on Big D? He'll be in the backfield for New England. The primary issue, though, for the Patriots is their schedule. They've already faced the Dolphins and the Eagles. Now they have the Cowboys. Then they're going to face the Saints. Then they face the Raiders. And then they get the Bills. It's brutal.
It does feel like it has to get easier at some point. It gets a little bit easier after this week, but then immediately gets tough again with that Bills game.
It shouldn't be tough for the 49ers. They're hosting the Cardinals, but we said that about Dallas a week ago. The Niners have scored 30 points in each of their 3 games this season. Since the start of 2019, 49ers have had 3 defensive coordinators with Saleh, Ryans, and now Wilkes. And the team leads the NFL in fewest yards allowed per game, regardless of who's calling the defense up in the booth or on the sideline. Cardinals 3-0 against the spread this season, Chad.
Telling you, watch out. Josh Dobbs couldn't find his jersey in the team store. Got that taken care of. He's solving problems left and right in the desert.
Christian McCaffrey, a touchdown in 12 consecutive games now. The NFL record is 15 consecutive. Chiefs and Jets on Sunday Night Football. No Aaron Rodgers, but Taylor Swift will be there at MetLife. That's, skyrocketing on the ticket prices for some reason. From NFL Research, Patrick Mahomes, the fastest player to reach 25,000 career passing yards, taking only 83 games to do so. The next fastest was Matthew Stafford, who achieved this in 90 games. Mahomes has done it in 83.
7 fewer games.
That's crazy. The Jets, they have the Chiefs, Broncos, Eagles, and Giants between now and Halloween. Their bye is it's October 2nd, so it's just around the corner. So they have the ability to make a move at quarterback if they so choose, based on where their bye falls. Do they want to? Don't know. There's been some talk about Nick Foles ending up there. Again, do they want to trade? What happens in Tennessee? What happens in Minnesota? If they're looking for a quarterback to trade for, those guys aren't available yet. But by the time they get around to their bye, or maybe the week after, they could be. But where are the Jets at that point?
Yeah,
Chad?
is it worth it? They're going to have to win at some point for it to even be worth making a move, to think about the playoffs.
Seahawks on the road against the New York Giants. Second time we've seen MetLife host back-to-back games on back-to-back nights. We did it earlier this year. Now we do it again on Sunday night, Monday Night Football. Per the Action Network, Daniel Jones, 1-12 at night in his career. You pay attention to those numbers? 1-12.
I only do. I don't think of it like, oh, Daniel Jones doesn't see as well at night or anything like that. I don't think of it that way. I think when he's in the primetime game, it's when the Giants are playing better competition. I read that stat as Daniel Jones has not done well with the Giants in beating good competition in primetime, right? Most of the time they're going to be playing someone good in those spots.
Take the over. I don't know what it's set at right now, over under. Take the over. Geno Smith's offense, 37 points in each of their past 2 games for Seattle, both wins. But their defense, they've also allowed 27 points in their first 3 games. Should be high scoring. Daniel Jones should put on a show.
And
Saquon Barkley is limited this week at practice.
It's not good.
Doubt he plays.
This is why running backs aren't paid the way some others are, because they do get used up. And we're seeing that with Saquon Barkley, unfortunately for him.
Yep. At least he's getting his 11 or 12 million.
Yep.
Guaranteed, which he should have signed. Chad, that is one big thing on every NFL game this week.
That's it. You rolled through that
What's
one
your
this
favorite
time,
game?
It's Bills, Dolphins. I mean, I'm not even joking, though. I'm kind of really looking forward to watching Bears, Broncos.
Yeah, we're sick.
Just to see the tragedy that's taking place in that game. We feast off of, Schadenfreude. We feast off of others' distress. So I'm going to be watching that just to experience all the distress that goes on.
Ryan Leaf went on Good Morning Football today. He's on every Thursday with them on NFL Network and had a lot to say about game day and his Cougs being disrespected. Washington State's own Ryan Leaf about to join us. We'll hit that plus a lot of other NFL and college topics.
Did you know that there's only one movie theater in all of Chad, the entire country?
You would be
20th
there.
largest country, one movie theater.
And Chad would own it.
This is where you come for those facts.
Ryan
just like
Leaf
that
is
one.
next.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump, now at least have to see like senile, not all there. Probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be this stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course. Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm going to go Ron DeSantis.
Okay. Why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro. There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Viking show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm going to say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
Because Game of Thrones is all about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Yeah, baby, I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well.
Yeah.
And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
Sixth and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Glad you're with us across the OutKick Network. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow rolls on. Chad, how about this? Tonight begins a stretch of college, at least one college or one NFL game for 54 of the next 55 days. Next Tuesday is the last scheduled day without football until November 22nd, which is the day before Thanksgiving.
That is music to my ears, Hutton. Much like
Not
Thursday
bad.
now being the start of the weekend for everyone because we have football on Thursdays. This is not your average Thursday in May that no one cares about.
Right.
Now it's the start of the weekend. That gets me excited too.
Yeah, we're always excited and also ready for the weekend in football when Ryan Leaf joins us. He joins us weekly here on Hot Mic, host of the Straight Line Pod, and you can catch him every Thursday on Good Morning Football. Ryan, good to see you, man. Hope things are well.
Good to see you too, you guys. Yeah, a lot of football. It's odd for me because I'm going to kind of start to shut down a little bit because we got the little girl.
Oh, that's right.
About the time that football finally lets up there around
that could be
Thanksgiving
any time now, right?
You know, this one was, we're ready for anything.
Okay.
Just because of how difficult it was to get.
Yes.
And it seems like this one, our son did not move at all. And this one is like a rocket. I mean, she's just roaring. She's ready to go. So we'll see.
Yeah, your life will definitely change. It won't be just about football when that happens, no doubt about it. It is about football for Washington State right now. And that was a huge football win for Coach Jake Dickert and that program. Ryan, I think you can win the press conference and lose the press conference. I thought he won this press conference with how measured he was in his response and his not liking what Lee Corso had to say on College Game Day. I'm going to ask you also about Ryan Day, who I thought lost the post-game interview with his emotions and kind of a weird moment to call out 86-year-old former head coach Lou Holtz. But what did you make of Jake Dickert's response? I know you tweeted something and Kirk Herbstreit came back at you, but just overall, College Game Day's involvement in the sport, but ESPN's involvement in Pac-12 media rights, and what Jake Dickert was hinting at after the game.
Well, I mean, it's easy to root for Jake Dickert, okay? It just is. He's an incredible coach. He motivates. He pretty much fell into the lap of Pat Chun after the whole Nick Rolovich situation. So, I mean, you got to respect him. He didn't hear it right, but I wasn't speaking to that. I was speaking to the intent. And the intent in that moment was to belittle and make fun of a little bit. And when you had a chance to celebrate college football, to celebrate two teams that are going through the most adverse scenarios, right? I mean, no one wants them. That's exactly what Lee Corso said, and that's the truth. There's no conference that wants them. So they had an opportunity to lift them up and say, this is amazing. Look how well these coaching staffs have put together these winners. They're both ranked, Oregon State and Washington State, and they're going to go out and play a great football game. Let's celebrate that. Instead, Lee Corso does the whole wah thing, and then Pat McAfee, he windsock just kind of flows with what everything's going, laughs his tail off. And so they made it a joke when they could have celebrated it. And I think that's what Jake Dickert was hinting to. I like the way he conducts himself after games. He understands. Also, all he's doing is sticking up for his players. And that I'll never look at a coach and think that they overstep their bounds or shouldn't be speaking out of pocket or something like that, because they're trying to lift up their players, and that's why they play so hard for him.
And Ryan, if he doesn't do that as well, the narrative is exactly what people heard on game day. We referenced this earlier in the week, where you came on a couple of weeks ago and mentioned that Washington State's numbers, that the eyeballs on the actual product is generally high, much higher than you would expect.
Well, and you were clarifying that, Ryan. What Jake Dickert said was he called it the Nobody Watches Us Bowl. I was watching it. What Corso said, which I think is even worse, was he said something about it's a Nobody Wants Us Bowl. And
that's true, and the watches is not true.
Like if he would have just said, if they would have took that opportunity to go, these two teams are the No One Wants Us Bowl, which is true.
Yeah.
But do it with some empathy. What he said and how he said it was, it's the No One Wants Us Bowl. Where. And he did that a couple times, and then McAfee's laughing. So it's the intent. And I have nothing against Gameday. I have nothing against Kirk Herbstreit. He came back, and all he did was stick up for his longtime friend. And so I can't, I don't have a problem with that. He's wrong in this moment. And that's one thing that Kirk Herbstreit doesn't do a very good job of, is admitting when he's wrong. But it took me a long time to admit when I was wrong too. I just, it takes time. But we're all flawed human beings who don't live up to standards a lot of times, when we all do it. So I think that's what this ultimately is. But I'm also repping, right? I mean, this is who I am, and maybe I'm too close to it. Maybe if it wasn't my alma mater, would I have the same energy? I would like to think I would, but it's affecting these young men. And both those coaching staffs, is Jonathan Smith, Jake Dickert, are doing a tremendous job in the most adverse type of conditions.
Ryan, you mentioned what Dickert did resonates with the locker room, taking up for that group. What Ryan Day said post-game, does that resonate? Does that carry over? It can't carry the same weight, but why go at it in that with that emotion and that energy? No, I mean, it clearly pissed him off. I don't know how that carries over for Ohio State, regardless of what we just saw at the goal line to end the game.
I'm gonna be honest. I haven't seen it. I've just heard it.
Yeah.
A lot of people. It's just I heard Coach Holtz's comments, and what did you expect from the dude bleeds leprechaun green
But that's been the narrative of Ohio State with Michigan, too, the last 2 years.
It felt like he was defending himself, not his players. To your previous point, Ryan.
That's a good point.
About you're never going to get on a coach for defending their guys. That, to me, felt like Ryan Day defending his own honor about his teams being tougher than people think.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Day, we really haven't heard much from Ryan Day as a head coach, as a tenured head coach, simply because he does a pretty good job of just kind of walking silent, carrying a big stick, and that's usually an offensive system that's a juggernaut. And so that hasn't been necessarily the case. And so there's probably some, unrealistic expectations that are out there for him that he's got to try to live up to. And, all of us, we hear things, we try not to. We try to block things out and set up really good boundaries, healthy boundaries for us to not. But, we are human beings, and we'll hear 1,000 compliments and one bit of criticism, and that's the one thing we'll focus on the most. And it's unfortunately the case. And I probably, if you asked him right now if he, would do that again, I bet he would say no.
So speaking of College Game Day will be in Durham, North Carolina at Duke for the first time ever on Saturday. Ryan, you've called a game with Duke. What kind of chance do they have against Notre Dame in this one?
Take the points and the Blue Devils, baby, all day long. This is it. This is the time. Clemson in week one the worry was they've never played in that type of game. The atmosphere. There was a blimp over the stadium. They did not know how this Duke team would react. And how did they react? With playing the best football game under Mike Elko. Chatted with Riley Leonard yesterday and, just complimenting him on how he's handled everything. On his day off, he went to the Children's Hospital yesterday and gave back. Something we talked about when I spent those 3 days in Durham in August. Just love the guy and the type of head he has on his shoulders. Place is going to be wild. Place is going to be nuts. Game day's there. First time ever, right? And I know what that's like when they came to Washington State and what that atmosphere was like. And then the place is going to be rocking, right? Notre Dame is coming off an absolute embarrassment. They had 10 guys on the field for the final 2 plays. That game was won. That was their game in check. That long pass they threw down to the 2-yard line anyway to get them there. So, this is ripe. The fact that they're dogs at home, how they've played this year. Mike Elko is by far the best defensive schemer in the entire country. I've talked to too many coaches around the country, and every single one of them talks about how difficult it is to prepare for a Mike Elko coach defense. And so I expect Notre Dame to probably struggle with that a little bit. And the fact that they're such a high favorite, I mean, this lines me straight up for Duke, Florida State in a couple of weeks for probably the ACC, both undefeated.
So we saw the humbling that was inevitable of Colorado and Deion Sanders. We knew that was coming, right? 3-0 start, looked great. Got humbled in a win against Colorado State and then got shellacked by Oregon. Now they get USC. And there's sort of back-to-back Heisman Trophy hopefuls facing off against Heisman Trophy hopeful Shedeur Sanders. Quarterback in the Pac-12 looks amazing. And we've talked about this before, Ryan. What do you think about Oregon's performance in that game and now sort of transitioning for Colorado, coming off that big loss, having to play USC? What do you see in that matchup for Colorado?
Well, I think there's an opportunity for Colorado simply because of what USC puts on the field for a defense. And that's always been the case with Lincoln Riley coach teams. The defense just a bit porous. And, Alex Grinch, unfortunately, kind of, has that laid at his feet. But he does get too complicated in his scheme, I feel like. When he's got the talent and the athletes, I think, to get there without making things too complicated. And when he does, he tends to run guys out of position and gaps are open and guys are running free around the field. And we saw that at Arizona State. Now, Coach Dillingham can really scheme it up offensively too. So that presented a problem. I think Sean Lewis will have a good game plan. I do think that if there's a team that's really good like USC coming to town, that you can score with, Colorado's that team. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to score with USC. So they may be able to hang with them. They're not going to win, but I don't know if it necessarily gets the 21.5 points that people are talking about. I kind of, what Oregon showcased to me is that they're just incredibly physical up front on both sides of the ball. And that was just something that Colorado couldn't defend. They just couldn't. They're not big enough. They're not strong enough. Doesn't mean they don't have the big enough heart. They don't have the confidence, any of that. And, we got to look at 9 a.m. body clock start for USC on Saturday morning. That's people tend to think that's an issue. We'll see.
Ryan Leaf, our guest, joins us weekly at this time. He's the host of the Straight Line Pod. You can follow him on social at Ryan D. Leaf. 70-20. Miami posts 70 on the board last week against Denver. How do you put that in perspective throughout your football career and putting that on the scoreboard against an NFL defense?
I want to say maybe I scored I contributed to 70 points during my entire career. Seriously. It was, my brother texted me and he was like, dude, Miami. And I was like, I was flying home, home from Houston and what is he talking about? And sure enough, it's just going gangbusters. I think the greatest juxtaposition of quarterback getting the right coach is Zach Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett and how it's gone the last couple of weeks and how fearful Zach is to what Tua and Coach McDaniel have. I mean, the trust, the fearlessness that Tua is playing with. I mean, it is unmatched anywhere else. He is so good. He's played well in Buffalo before, but this game is this is perfect timing. Coming off of 70, going to Buffalo, who seems to have found their stride again on defense. There's a good stat for you. Teams that hung 60 or more the week before are 1-6. 1-6 straight up.
Just outright. Okay.
Yeah, and against the spread, they haven't covered ever. So 0-7. So I mean,
Chad and I have been looking for a winner. We need a winner. So
do that with what you will. All right.
Well, he already said Duke plus the points.
Yeah.
So we might play that one.
A little college NFL parlay with points bet.
I've hit back-to-back 4-leg parlays over the last 2 weekends of college.
Really?
Like I don't know whether I should I don't have to travel this weekend, so maybe.
Now you're going to be paying attention too much.
Now's the time to put together 3 or 4 4-leg parlays. If you're on that type of streak, just go ahead and ride it out.
Well, I do have to sit through a Little League game and a soccer game on Saturday, so there will be plenty of time in the lounge chair to kind of maybe take a good hard look.
I'll one-up you. I'm coaching a softball game at 9 a.m., and then I'm going to a laser tag birthday party from 2 to 5 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon of college football. For my 8-year-old daughter. So
super dad.
There you go.
Super dad. You're super dad. Yeah.
We all do what we can, Ryan.
What's the lowest odds on injury? What's the favorite in Vegas on the injury?
Oh, I mean, if I participate, the favorite would be me.
No, I'm saying like is it like a?
Oh no,
quad,
my son doesn't spend more than 20 seconds upright when he plays soccer. It's his shtick that he falls. So, yeah.
Yeah, my daughter's got this thing where she likes to hit the ground, too, in softball. I'm like, you don't have to go to the ground to get that ball. The goal is to stay on your feet so you can make plays, not fall down at all times.
You have to crawl in order to walk, though.
That's true.
That's right. All right, Ryan, I hope everything goes well off the field, off the football discussion and coverage with the family. And can't wait for next week with the chats. We're loving these.
Oh, I forgot. And we got, after the baseball game Saturday, we got the new Paw Patrol movie. So we're
big time.
Yeah.
Big time cinema.
Kick back and relax.
Yeah,
Ryan, you're the man.
Who's got to buy? So why do I need to watch college football for?
Always
Paw Patrol all the time.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
We preview Thursday Night Football next on Hot Mic.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation. And pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
There's no doubt in my mind he could have caught the ball in his back pocket if he'd been running. Blowing a lead and losing a game is 100 times more lasting and painful in some clubhouses than losing the game 15-0. If I had to start a list in the last 10 years of horrible underachievers, he's at the top.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Taste of the Southern Region.
Sixth and Peabody is where you can find the OutKick studio here in Nashville with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Love being here daily. Glad you're with us as well across the OutKick network. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hope you'll do that. Plus, pound the like button. Give us a thumbs up. Chad's in the chat. You can catch all the great shows here across the network daily and on demand. Chad, we've got Thursday Night Football. Lions on the road taking on the Packers at Lambeau. Ryan Leaf has been on a roll. We need to get on one in terms of
back-to-back 4-leg parlays he hit.
Detroit favored by 2 on the road against the same record opponent, 2-1 versus 2-1. If you haven't taken your shot with PointsBet, now's the perfect moment. Here's a big reason why. Exclusively for first-time PointsBet users, you can grab this unique offer. Right now, PointsBet users, new users, can get up to $1,000 in second chance bets. If your first bet doesn't go as planned, PointsBet has your back with a second chance. Get this offer by visiting outkick.com/bet. You complete the registration process with PointsBet. You make your first bet, and then if your first bet happens to lose, that's when the second chance bets come into play. Remember, terms and conditions apply. You've got to be 21 or older in legal gambling states. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Head over to outkick.com/bet right now to snag this offer. How do you like this? It's plus 114 on the money line for Green Bay, over under at 45.5, and Detroit, the 2-point favorite on the road after already winning on the road in Arrowhead.
And I've already played it.
You have?
Give me the Lions -2. I think they go into Lambeau and win and cover tonight. They're the better team. I think they're going to show it. Give me the Lions.
I am taking the Lions as well. The other thing I like, there's a teaser in this, that the Lions and Packers each to score 1 touchdown in each half. I think it's a high-scoring game tonight.
That's a good one. Each to score a touchdown
in each
that.
half.
Okay.
In each half. You're betting on the fact that Jordan Love isn't going to go through the 3 quarters of nothing like they did a week ago and then turn things on in the 4th quarter. That results in a win, but not consistency in order to win that tease. So give me Detroit. I think it's a statement night for Detroit. By the way, it can go both ways here too. If Green Bay wins and Jordan Love continues the great play, that's also a massive topic as we not just begin week 4, as we round up week 4 on Monday. Love will be a discussion point.
Even with the injuries, going to Arrowhead and winning on Thursday night to open the season was a big statement. Then the statement was same old Lions the next week, losing at home to Seattle, who looked awful in week 1 against the Rams, if you'll recall. This is more of an assertive step in the right direction within that division tonight. So week 1, win at Arrowhead, statement. This is a win for the Lions that puts them on firm footing in that NFC North.
Tend to agree. Right now, you've got the the Lions. They're 6-0 against the spread last season against the division. They'll look to continue that trend, and they'll likely have to do it against Jones and Watson, who are expected back for Green Bay after missing the recent games due to soft tissue injuries. From Thursday Night Football to the rest of the Week 4 NFL slate, time for our NFL Eliminator selections for the week, Davey.
That's right, Hut. And last week, all 3 of us advanced.
That's right.
Still able to have a successful season.
Right now we've got some easier selections to go with, though. It's going to get more difficult.
Well, I appreciate that I wasn't eliminated in week 1, because the way this would normally go is I wouldn't even pick. But I've been allowed to pick winners since then.
Well, you've done well.
Yeah, thank you, Vikings, for that.
And Hut, you will have the first pick for this week's edition.
So I realize that against the spread, Arizona's been very good, but I'm just picking straight winners. And Arizona is taking on San Francisco this week. Give me the 49ers just to win. I'm having to go with some top teams early in the season. I went Dallas, Kansas City, and now San Francisco to lead the charge. And the Niners have scored 30 in each of their 3 games this season. And McCaffrey is scoring a ton of touchdowns. Give me San Fran just to win outright, and I'll continue in the winning ways.
All right. And I ended up going with the team. You know, it's actually, I made this pick before all the conversation started around the Chiefs and the Jets, but give me the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to go into MetLife. They're going to get it done. Zach Wilson just doesn't have enough in the tank to be able to take on this Kansas City team. And even though the Jets do have a good defense, they're not going to be able to slow down Patrick Mahomes enough for that offense in New York to be able to catch up.
Maybe New York's looking ahead to Denver, Nathaniel Hackett and company. They can't focus on Kansas City.
On your week 1 win with getting the Commanders out of the way, masterclass.
Well, they faced the Cardinals. Again, I've gone to this quite a bit.
Look, I just want to say that had the Vikings won the way they were supposed to in week 1, I would be dominating this competition, because I am picking middle-of-the-road NFL teams week by week, saving the best ones for later. But they didn't, so I'm actually technically eliminated. Hutton's Washington Commanders out of the way immediately. Great. Davey's gone with 4 somewhat dominant NFL teams so far.
Yep.
Now is my turn to pick a dominant NFL team. Fly, Eagles, fly, baby. Give me the Philadelphia Eagles against Hutton's Commanders that won in week 1 as a 9-point favorite. I need winners. That first week loss is really weighing heavy on me. So I'm going with one of the best teams in the NFL to get
Always
it done.
be wary, man. Those division games. It's one of those in which, while you think you feel safe.
Yeah. You're not wrong there, but
at least you can see my strategy.
Philly's
even though even with the loss of going into it.
Great. Yeah.
I feel confident you will hit. From years past, I've been burned on the interdivision matchups.
If we had to go another round of games for this competition, what would the next pick be for us? What are we most confident in?
Well, mine would have been yours.
No, I'm saying the games that are not
on the
board that have not been selected.
I would have taken the Broncos, as crazy as that is to say.
I would look at that as well.
I would have gone Jacksonville.
Cincinnati?
I think the London Jags at home.
Where would Cincinnati be on our list? What about the Chargers at home against the Raiders?
Nah, I avoid those.
I don't feel great
games.
about any of these. Honestly, mine's Jacksonville over Atlanta would be the only one I'm pretty confident in happening. And that's a 3-point spread.
Yeah, there's not I'm not confident in Dallas. I've already used them, but I'm not confident that they'll be able to keep that within out of arm's length of a game. But Patriots have been losing games, but they've been fourth quarter down to the wire moments where they've got the ball with the chance to either go tie or take the lead. And meanwhile, Arizona raised an eyebrow for all of us with the Cowboys.
I would say the one I'm least that I have a hard time having any confidence in picking one way or the other this week is Monday Night Football, Giants and Seahawks. Two teams that I have as winners already in this competition, but I would have a very hard time saying what is going to happen in that game.
I feel pretty good about Buffalo
noting
after
Daniel
Ryan's
Jones'
comments,
record
too.
at night,
Yeah.
which is not good. I have no idea.
They do have 10 days rest. Seattle has the cross-country flight. Couple of things. I don't know. I see why the Giants are currently favored, I believe, in that one.
You guys, this is a question I saw posed on someone's column this week.
Okay.
USC playing at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. their time. Would you rather play a game at 9 a.m. or 10 p.m. given the time difference? Like if you are an East Coast team that travels way west and plays a late night game, or a West Coast team playing what would be an early morning game for you?
I think the program wants it over with instead of sitting around all day.
Program definitely wants the earlier game.
I would want the late game.
I think it all comes down to if you practice in the morning. Like a lot of these teams, like Tennessee practices early in the morning and then they go to class. A lot of these teams practice early now. So if that's the case, I think even today when we think about college kids sleeping in until noon and all that, I think most of the college players would prefer playing early and getting the game out of the way as opposed to what we saw with Auburn going to Berkeley and playing Cal at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night.
If you want to take the crowd out of it, early is definitely the route to go.
Yeah.
You don't let college fans just sit around, drink all day, and then be fired up going into the stadium 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah. That creates a bit more of an atmosphere.
These early morning kicks for them was going to have. I mean, that would have hypothetically been a part of their new TV package had they received one.
Yeah.
But, it had to be creative on that.
People are going to watch regardless. I will give a bit of a tease for my top 10 games of the week tomorrow, college games.
Yeah.
It's the lowest I've had Colorado yet on my list of games. They did make the top 10, though.
Okay.
They're in the top 10, but it's the lowest I've had them in terms of interest.
As far as non-Saturday kickoffs, do you have many on your list?
I have two.
Good games.
I have two Friday night games.
Okay. I'm
everybody can
not
guess which
liking the
ones.
Friday night.
One is third on my list, and one is ninth on my list.
Why can't they make that the Thursday night games?
They don't want to compete with the NFL, I think, is the answer. And they think that they've got a little niche on Friday night. I'd say one area where I've really been, with all my gambling issues never winning, I always win on Friday night. I think I've won. I'm like Ryan Leaf on Fridays.
Okay.
I've had 2 or 3 straight 3-leg parlays hit on my Friday night parlay. Now, I did lose the wrong team favored last week on Friday night, but I covered the spread. I bet it at 3.5, and I think my team that I picked to win lost 34-31, San Diego State, Boise State. So I lost the game for our competition, but I won the bet because they covered 3.5.
How about Nick Saban not liking or agreeing with the way Dan Lanning handled the pregame speech against Colorado? Have you seen these quotes on Pat McAfee show? Saban, who's going on weekly now with McAfee, quote, "I understand what Dan Lanning was trying to say. It was probably good for his team to hear in some way, but probably wasn't good for everybody else to hear. That's always the argument. There's got to be some times where you can talk to your team and say what you need to say, and it's not for everyone else to hear."
That does not surprise me that he doesn't like that route. I think the story with Oregon is not that he said those things to his team. It's that Oregon chose to publicize that to the world.
Yeah.
And then a day later or 2 days later, they decided to further troll Colorado by posting pregame side video footage of Shiloh Sanders cursing out Oregon players and talking about how he was going to beat them and their coach's ass. And then they're putting the subtitles up of the trash talk he's saying. That was an odd decision by Oregon.
Well, that feeds into the
I like that we got that level of content.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that was Oregon's athletic department, social media team deciding, hey, let's crush these guys even more and post what they did to us pregame.
Saban says, and he's doing it, by the way, he's sending his message when he says this. He's joining McAfee weekly. In the modern world, you can use media to send a message to your team. I don't think you need to do that right before the game. That's something that you do on Monday when you talk to the press. If you want to get a message out there because your team is going to hear that message and reinforce that in the team meeting. You want everyone to think that way, and sometimes you want your fans to think that way. So rat poison doesn't get to them.
Well, and Nick Saban is not ever going to be one to go and bring
Nicholas
a camera into the locker room for his pregame speeches. But Nick Saban's also one that is smart enough to
also-
understand the value of getting the word out there about your program in Alabama. It's why he goes on McAfee Weekly.
Yeah.
It's why he does all the commercials. He'll go on any show that will have him on. He spent an entire month petitioning for Alabama to be in the college football playoff on every show imaginable
As
a year ago. So he will say yes to almost every big show.
It's a game. Bama on the road at Mississippi State, Chad.
Yeah.
After winning at home against Ole Miss and the way they did it, the fashion that they did in the second half, the chatter is really, it's been really dull this week in pointing at Tuscaloosa and, is Bama, what's wrong with Alabama? They're not right. What do you point to? What are the issues? And now they don't have that distraction.
Well,
and that's good, but also like Mississippi State.
Meanwhile, Mississippi
what
State.
they did against South Carolina.
Yeah, Mississippi State looked awful against LSU. Then they went on the road to Columbia.
Yeah.
Took South Carolina down to the wire. That game was 27-all going to the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
They decided to finally throw it, and Will Rogers throws for
Thankfully.
474 yards.
And that's how
in the game. They had a receiver that had 227
they
yards
went from
receiving.
67% pass to like 34% pass.
Yeah, that is a
last
sneaky
year to
game.
this year.
Not in my top 10,
Okay.
but a sneaky game.
Yeah, just outside the top 10, lower
Just
than
outside.
Colorado and USC.
If there was a number 11 or 12, it would be in one of those spots.
All right. I would expect that.
Fun show today.
Where's Missouri Vandy?
Missouri Vandy, let me scroll my notes. Not in the top 10. Not in the top 10. Didn't even get a mention when I was writing down possible games.
Fair enough. Back at it tomorrow. We'll get you to the weekend. Hot Mic with Hutton Withrow, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, daily, right here on the OutKick Network.